Even before the production crew wrapped up, the cast of Oak Ridge Community were already looking forward to Ethan and Victoria Harper's wedding celebration. Anyone could see they were a perfect match when they stood together. Victoria Harper, usually cool and distant, only ever let her guard down in front of Ethan, her gaze towards him full of tenderness. The show hadn't even finished filming, yet the audience had already guessed the ending. There was no suspense. The only couple that would make it from this dating show was Ethan and Victoria Harper. If anyone else got together, it would have to be scripted. Among the male contestants, Logan Prescott seemed to be there just for exposure. Christopher Foster had initially come to find a partner, but his subsequent questionable antics had led netizens to dig up dirt on him. For the final message exchange, the director didn't hand out phones, but instead set up a phone booth for everyone to record a voice message for the person they liked. It was the last day, a chance to say everything they wanted to, leaving no regrets. Each person went in at different times to record their message, their expressions revealing their emotions, a mix of nervousness, anticipation, and even a touch of bitterness. Victoria Harper was the last one to finish recording. By the time she emerged, it was already 7 in the evening. After dinner, the director had them sit in a row and told them to decide amongst themselves who would go listen first. There wasn't much to discuss. Logan Prescott knew perfectly well that Ethan would have the most voice messages. If Ethan went first, the others would have to watch him listen to every single message. For those who hadn't received any, it would be like twisting a knife in their hearts. Utterly devastating. The director was really cruel, pulling a stunt like this for the finale. So, Logan decided to go first. Get over with quickly. Out of sight, out of mind. He raised his hand. Director, I'll go first. All right, go ahead. Logan Prescott surreptitiously glanced at Ethan and the others, then walked towards a phone booth. Even though he knew the outcome, he still felt nervous as he approached. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. Unsurprisingly, he was out in less than 5 seconds. Since he had already anticipated this, there was no awkwardness on his face. He was still smiling casually. I'm done. Who's next? Christopher Foster was the second to step up. Compared to Logan Prescott, his expression wasn't as relaxed. After all, according to his original plan, Olivia Bennett should have ended up with him. When they first started filming, Olivia Bennett had been quite warm towards him, but her attitude had worsened as the show progressed. Lately, she wouldn't even let him get close. He couldn't help but wonder if Ethan had secretly said something to Olivia Bennett to make her wary of him. Or was she still holding a grudge about that night? Reaching the phone booth, Christopher Foster went inside. He picked up the receiver, pressed it to his ear, and hit play. Silence. He waited for over 10 seconds, but there was nothing. Listening closely, he could only hear faint static. His last shred of hope vanished. Christopher Foster couldn't suppress his irritation. No matter how hard he listened, he couldn't deceive himself into thinking there was a message. He put down the receiver and walked back, feigning nonchalance. Among the male contestants, only Ethan remained. Just as Ethan was about to get up, Olivia Bennett suddenly stood up. I'll go third. Olivia Bennett hurried inside. 2 seconds after picking up the receiver, she heard Christopher Foster's voice. After finding out what kind of person Christopher Foster truly was, Olivia Bennett had been avoiding him like the plague. Now, hearing his voice message, her first reaction wasn't happiness but annoyance. She didn't want to listen at all. But out of respect for the show, she had to grip the receiver tightly and patiently listen to the entire message. Hello, Olivia. Are you surprised or disappointed to hear my voice? I remember when we first met, I was captivated by your smile. You were so innocent, and it made me want to protect you. What I miss most now is when we first got to know each other. You'd smile at me, comfort me, speak up for me. We were so compatible back then. Why did things change? I guess it must be something I did wrong. Olivia, I know I'm not the one you like, but I still want to try. Whether you like me or not is separate from the fact that I like you. Life is long, and it's not easy to find someone you genuinely like. I want to fight for this. I hope you can give me a chance. As for my family situation, it's not as bad as Ethan made it out to be. I come from a poor family, and my parents were strict. I've always listened to them, and many things were out of my control. When I was very young, I envied others who had happy families. It wasn't until I met you that I found the confidence to want to change myself. These past few weeks together have been too short for us. I know you're a sensitive person and don't like to rush things, so I'll take it slow, go at your pace, and give you a sense of security. After the show ends, I hope you'll still give me a chance to get closer to you. If we can't be lovers, then let's start as friends. It was such a cliché-ridden monologue, filled with I hope and I want. Olivia Bennett grew impatient listening, and anger even began to creep on her face. The last part said, if you agree to be with me, then tomorrow at 9, I'll wait for you to get up, and we can have breakfast and go home together. If you refuse, then we'll start as friends. Just spin around once where you stand. Olivia Bennet listened to the message for nearly 10 minutes, her feet growing numb from standing. It was windy and cold outside. With a stony expression, Olivia Bennet put down the receiver. As she turned, she first glanced towards Ethan, then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Christopher Foster's expectant expression. Olivia Bennet showed no emotion and made no unnecessary movements, simply returning to her seat. She couldn't even be bothered to respond to him. After some discussion, Grace Parker was next. Grace Parker took a deep breath and went over. Unsurprisingly, the voice message for her was from Logan Prescott. The content was, as always, in his usual adoring fan style. Thank you for these past few days, allowing me to be close to my idol. I know I'm not the one you like, so I won't make things difficult for you. I wish you a bright future and a dazzling career. I look forward to your next movie. I'll book out a theater to support you. Grace Parker felt comforted once again. She met Logan Prescott's sparkling eyes and said, "Thank you for your support. I definitely won't let you down. When my new movie comes out, if you're free, I'll invite you to the premiere." To maintain suspense for the show, Grace Parker didn't say his name directly. Logan Prescott also refrained from showing any outward reaction. But if you looked closely, you could see him struggling to suppress a smile, threatening to lift the corners of his mouth. After Grace Parker returned to her seat, Victoria Harper stood up. All eyes were on her, eager to know what Ethan had said to her. Ethan's voice came through the receiver, gentle, mature, and tinged with a smile, as if he was in a good mood. Hearing Ethan's voice, Victoria Harper couldn't help but smile too. "Hello, Victoria Harper. It's Ethan. It's you who made me realize that being loved can make one feel so intensely alive, as if flesh and blood were wildly regenerating. You once asked me what my love for you is like. I think it's like a rose in a barren land, a temple, the starry sky. My feelings for you aren't just like, it's love and a desire for you to be mine. Before I fell in love with you, I had given up on the idea of so-called wedding ceremonies and love itself. It was you who made me believe again. I can't say things like depend on me completely, because you're not an appendage. What I can do is only add further beauty to your life. Our life together stretches ahead. Let our love begin with this confession. Victoria Harper, I love you. Will you be with me in a love that lasts forever?" Victoria didn't say anything, just gave an okay sign with her hand, signaling her agreement. Right then, she desperately wanted to pounce on Ethan. If the cameras weren't rolling, she would have definitely listened to it a few more times. Victoria put down the receiver and skipped back happily. "I'm done listening. You can go now." Ethan stood up and draped the blanket he was holding over Victoria. Everyone else was ready and waiting. As expected, Ethan would receive 3 voice messages today. Ethan walked in, picked up the receiver. The first voice message was from Olivia Bennet. "Hi, Ethan. This is Olivia Bennet. I was pretty nervous recording this. You might not believe this, but I've liked you ever since you were with Amelia. It's just that back then, I didn't understand love and ended up hurting you in all the wrong ways. People have to face the consequences of their mistakes, so I accept that you don't like me." Olivia Bennet tried hard to sound like she had moved on, but her voice still caught with a sob as she spoke. "I never thought I'd feel regret and sadness over things that are long past. Every time I think about it, I wish I could go back in time and slap my past self silly. Thinking back, you were so incredibly patient. How did you put up with me humiliating you like that? If it were me, I would have lost it long ago. Sigh. Sometimes I really wish you'd just slap me a few times, beat me up even, so I wouldn't feel so awful. Other than that, there's not much else to say. Oh, here's something you don't know. Last week, Victoria and I had a private chat in the room. She said it's because she's so outstanding that she deserves your love, but I think even if she had nothing, you'd still love her. Since you've chosen to be with her, then I wish you two a lifetime together. But if you happen to break up, I'll definitely be stepping in. You better watch out. I'm no pushover. Lastly, can I hear you praise me one last time?" The 2 lastly showed how anxious Olivia Bennet was. She was waiting. Just as Ethan was about to put down the receiver to respond, after a brief pause, another voice came through the headset. "Ethan, it's me, Grace Parker. I already feel so lucky to have met you again. I've gotten the answers to the questions I had. Truthfully, I knew long ago that we weren't right for each other. But I still turned down all my work commitments to join this reality show, to walk this path with you even though I knew it wouldn't lead anywhere. It wasn't long, but it's unforgettable. Ethan, I'm sorry. I apologize for my presumptuousness, for my sensitivity and cowardice. Further disturbance would be impolite. Finally, I wish that all you seek, you will find, and may your path always be smooth. Seeing you happy and well, I should be able to let go too. Oh, by the way, Grace Parker's voice suddenly became brighter. After Thanksgiving, I plan to go abroad to pursue my ultimate goal. From now on, you'll only be able to see me on various screens. Don't you dare miss me too much. I'm afraid I won't be able to bring myself to leave. If you have time on Thanksgiving, bring Victoria to meet my mom and try her cooking. I think Victoria would like it. The last voice message was from Victoria. Ethan planned to listen to all three before responding. He actually felt a little nervous about what Victoria was going to say. Ethan, it's your Victoria. Before I met you, I never believed in love, let alone online romance or even childhood sweethearts. To me, marriage was a tomb that hastened death, a restraint on my freedom. And as for things like I'd die for you, I scoffed at them. The very thought seemed utterly foolish. It wasn't until I met you that I understood. Heaven had sent you as the perfect consequence for my arrogance. You are the person I've always dreamed of having. The person who makes me smile unconsciously just by thinking of them. And the person I once yearned for, but couldn't have, a source of deep regret. If I couldn't be with you, I don't think I could ever love anyone else in this lifetime. I would be alone forever. Your arrival filled my dull, monotonous life with color. Because of you, I look forward to every new day. I've started to enjoy the world, to notice the weather, to love life. They say marriage is the grave of love. Well, are you willing to share that grave with me? If you say yes, then come find me here tomorrow. As Victoria's cheerful confession ended, so did the voice message. A smile touched Ethan's eyes and lips. After listening to all the voice messages, Ethan put down the receiver. He felt everyone's eyes on him. He blinked, replayed the three messages in his mind, and composed his responses. I'll answer the first question first. His gaze turned to Olivia Bennett. You've become really amazing now. You've learned to cook, and your coleslaw is delicious. You're very smart, and I see limitless potential in you. You'll definitely surpass your parents and become even greater than them. Don't get discouraged so easily. Smile more. You look beautiful when you smile, and your fans love to see it. The others understood this was clearly directed at Olivia Bennett. Olivia Bennett's eyes reddened, and a radiant smile slowly spread across her lips. Then, for the second message, my answer is, I will bring her to your place for dinner. And I also wish you renewal in all things, healing from old wounds. May your days always feel as fresh as new beginnings, and may your future be bright. Grace Parker nodded with a smile, struggling to maintain her composure. Further intrusion would be impolite. The current outcome was good for everyone, and she was genuinely happy. For the last question, Ethan answered succinctly with a very simple, I agree. Agree to what? To start dating? Or something else? Only Victoria knew. Ethan was agreeing to her joint burial proposal, a direct leap. A joint burial? To share the same quilt in life and the same tomb in death. How could that not be the ultimate romance? After answering all the questions, Ethan returned. The atmosphere was a bit tense. The director didn't step in to ease it, just kept filming with the camera. The Twitch livestream followed suit, with many viewers speculating about the content of the voice messages. Unfortunately, to know the outcome, they'd have to watch the main broadcast. Everyone was also anticipating what would happen when they left tomorrow. From start to finish, Christopher had been waiting for Olivia Bennett's response. Unfortunately, Olivia Bennett didn't even glance at him, which made him feel extremely awkward. He couldn't help but wonder if Olivia Bennett hadn't heard his last message. He had already compromised, asking to be friends instead of lovers, so why wouldn't Olivia Bennett give him a chance? In front of everyone, Christopher decided to probe Olivia Bennett. Olivia Bennett, did you hear the voice message? I heard it. Did you finish listening to it? It was quite long, but I listened to all of it, Olivia Bennett replied, her face cold. Through this brief exchange, Christopher learned Olivia Bennett's stance in a rather humiliating way for himself. It was Thanksgiving, and everyone had a little something to drink. Ethan, in particularly high spirits, had quite a bit of the liquor Uncle Miller brought, a homemade sorghum spirit. It was fragrant and potent. One shot went down like fire, warming him quickly with a kick that lingered. Mindful of his sensitive stomach, Ethan didn't dare overdo it, switching to a sparkling fruit wine to keep Victoria Harper company. Victoria flushed easily with alcohol. Ethan gently coaxed her into drinking some warm water. Under the soft glow of the wall sconce, her skin looked incredibly smooth, not a pore in sight, with a delicate, rosy hue. He couldn't resist reaching out to touch her cheek, only realizing after he'd done it that they were still being filmed. Don't drink so much next time, or you'll wake up with a headache. I'm just happy today. Victoria Harper's voice was a little hoarse. She rested her head on her arms on the table, her voice soft and languid. I won't drink so much anymore. You keep an eye on me. I'll listen to you. Everyone went to bed early that night. Olivia Bennet was up and gone before dawn. Why so early? Because Christopher Foster had sent a voice message the day before saying he'd wait to have breakfast with her, and she was afraid if she slept in, he'd get a little too confident. Grace Parker rose and made breakfast. Oatmeal with bacon bits, served with the pickled mustard greens she'd brought. This time, she didn't wait for Ethan. Once it was ready, she ate and left. She glanced back at Ethan's room, then quickly lowered her head, hiding her loneliness. She'd packed her luggage the night before, ready to grab and go. Last night, Victoria Harper hadn't snuck into Ethan's room, a rare occurrence for her to sleep in the same room as Grace. Victoria had been up even earlier than Grace this morning, acting all mysterious about what she was up to. Grace Parker dragged her suitcase away without a backward glance, feigning a casual departure. But on camera, her figure looked utterly solitary, the surrounding mist threatening to swallow her whole. She'd done all she could, given her all. Since what was lost couldn't be reclaimed, it was time for a proper goodbye. The happier Ethan was, the fewer regrets she would have. After Grace Parker left, Ethan finished packing his and Victoria Harper's luggage and came out. A member of the production crew handed him his phone. Victoria Harper had sent him her location via a chat message. The crew member said kindly, "Grace Parker made breakfast specially. She and Olivia have already left." Hearing the word specially, Ethan went straight to the kitchen. The porridge in the induction cooker was still steaming, kept warm. He ladled a large bowl, ate it with the pickled vegetables, and washed the bowl. Victoria Harper had left early and definitely hadn't eaten. Porridge wasn't easy to transport, but thankfully there was bread in the fridge. Ethan toasted it, quickly fried 2 eggs and some bacon, and made a simple sandwich. Once done, he loaded the luggage into the car, checked the time, and set off for Victoria Harper's location. She was in an open area, with 2 large vehicles parked nearby. To build suspense for the main broadcast, there was no Twitch stream today, which made Ethan feel much more relaxed. He spotted Victoria Harper from a distance. She had told him she was preparing a surprise today and that he absolutely had to follow her instructions. Her tone had been very firm. Ethan's heart fluttered like a trapped bunny. He parked the car and slowly walked toward Victoria Harper. When he was about 10 meters away, she suddenly raised a megaphone. "Ethan," he stopped, listening. "I'm not as good as you imagine," Victoria Harper said. "I'm not kind or gentle. Most of the time, I'm negative and morbid. I'm also incredibly vengeful. Anyone who hurts me, I'll remember it for the rest of my life. If, after we get together, you ever betray me, I will never forgive you. And I won't let you go. I'll drag you down with me. We'll die together, go to the crematorium together, be burned to ashes together, and then our ashes will be mixed and buried together." With each phrase, she took a step forward, drawing closer to Ethan. The crazed intensity in her eyes was now fully exposed, her dark, compelling eyes blazing with possessiveness. She looked at Ethan like a predator sizing up its prey. She was trembling. An exhilarating tremor ran through her. She'd often fantasized about keeping him by her side, no matter the cost, even chaining him up, locking him in her room, making him hers alone. Such morbid thoughts always surfaced whenever she saw Ethan with Amelia Harper. She knew it was a sickness. To fight it, she'd chosen to keep her distance. She considered herself a normal person. She couldn't hurt Ethan. But now, choosing to tell him the truth, she was terrified he'd be scared of her, that he'd leave. After all, who would want to be with a ticking time bomb? "Ethan, you can refuse me." Ethan looked particularly handsome today in an off-white turtleneck sweater under a coffee-colored overcoat, exuding an air of refined composure. Victoria Harper's heart clenched. She struggled to find words for what she was feeling, only knowing that Ethan had suddenly taken root in her heart, filling every inch of it. If he refused her now, it would be like having her heart ripped out. Yet, if he chose to walk away, she wouldn't stop him. If he hesitated, she wouldn't be disappointed. Choosing a stable life was the most natural thing in the world. Victoria Harper stopped, awaiting Ethan's answer. Ethan's voice was loud and clear. "That confession from your voice message yesterday. Can you say it to me again?" A cold gust of wind swept over them. Victoria Harper stared at him, unblinking. "Ethan, they say marriage is the tomb of love. So, are you willing to be buried with me?" Ethan opened his arms wide. "I'd be delighted." He stood his ground, arms open. As another gust of wind hit them, Victoria Harper leaped into his embrace. He caught her firmly, not budging an inch despite the force of her jump. Victoria Harper wrapped her arms around his neck, her upturned face radiant with a smile. "Are you really not afraid I belong in Springfield Psychiatric Hospital? What if I hurt you someday?" Ethan looked down at her, his expression earnest. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm a grown man. You think I'd be scared of you? If you really are ill, I'll be there with you through your treatment. Besides, I'm not as perfect as you think. I'm possessive and can be clingy with my girlfriend. Will you mind that? Never. Ethan, maybe my medicine. I feel so happy every day now. The joy welled up from deep within her. Victoria Harper's dark, compelling eyes seemed to sparkle with starlight. Being with you, even the smallest things become precious memories I replay over and over. Ethan's gaze softened. He gently tucked a stray strand of hair from her forehead behind her ear. Before I met you, I never imagined I'd ever love someone, get married, or have someone to grow old with. My outlook on life was pessimistic. I didn't think anyone could truly like me. It was you, Victoria Harper, who made me realize that I could be loved this much. At this, Ethan gently released her and knelt on one knee. He pulled out a promise ring. Victoria Harper, you're more important than anything, more special than anyone. You are my everything. I love you deeply, and I'm willing to give you my all. Will you be my girlfriend? As he spoke, his heart felt like it was about to explode. He'd never experienced excitement like this. Not even on a roller coaster had his heart pounded with such exhilaration. Victoria Harper stared at the promise ring in his hand. Where did you get this? I made it myself. It's set with pink diamonds, your favorite. Do you like it? You made it? How did you know my size? Holding your hand every day, fingers intertwined. I figured it out a long time ago. Ethan answered calmly, still kneeling. Victoria Harper stroked the back of his hand, but didn't extend her finger. Will you do whatever I say? Yes. Then tonight, I want your homemade egg fried rice. I'll make it as soon as we get home. Your phone, your chat apps. I want access. The password is your birthday. You can log in anytime. That includes my bank card pins. I like sleeping in your clothes. My clothes are your clothes. Victoria Harper's mind raced. Then she remembered something they hadn't managed before. And tonight, I want to shower with you. I'll scrub your back. Ethan gently took her wrist, his palm burning hot. He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. I won't refuse you. Only then was Victoria Harper satisfied. She extended her finger. Put it on me. Ethan, with great care and reverence, slid the promise ring onto Victoria Harper's middle finger. The pink diamond ring beautifully complemented her skin tone. All right, get up, the ground's cold. Victoria Harper touched the pink diamond on her middle finger. Why not on my ring finger? To know each other, to truly connect, to fall in love, the proposal, meeting the family, asking for their blessing, the engagement, the wedding ceremony, and then spending the rest of our lives hand in hand. Ethan took Victoria Harper's right wrist and kissed the back of her hand. We'll take it step by step in order. We won't miss a single one. Victoria Harper was very pleased with this answer. She took Ethan's hand. Come with me. I have another surprise for you. Ethan followed her jogging steps. It wasn't until they reached the two vehicles that he saw it was a truckload of flowers. So many flowers, all sorts of varieties, a vibrant mix of colors that wasn't chaotic at all, just beautiful and fragrant. You prepared all of this? Yep. Victoria Harper tilted her head up slightly, a hint of pride on her face, waiting for Ethan's praise. Impressive, right? Where did so many flowers come from? When did you start preparing this? Ethan had checked all the florists in Maplewood Township. None of them had this many flowers or such a wide variety. I started thinking about it a long time ago and only finished preparing last night. The truck drove through the night to deliver them. Everyone loves receiving flowers, don't they? Ethan took Victoria Harper's hand and walked closer. Why did you think of sending a whole truckload of flowers? Because every flower has its own meaning, and they all represent my love for you. Balloon flowers represent eternal love. Peonies mean you're my one and only. Red roses mean I only want to be with you. Gardenias signify lifelong devotion. Agave is for my willingness to give my all, and jasmine means you are mine. Victoria Harper pointed to the flowers in the truck bed as she listed them, ostensibly explaining their meanings, but actually confessing her love to Ethan. Many of these flowers weren't in season, and some wouldn't even be found in regular florists. It must have taken an incredible amount of time and effort to prepare them. In 2 lifetimes, over 50 years, he had never received such a grand surprise. He wanted to kiss her. Finally, there's one more flower, Victoria Harper said mysteriously. Close your eyes first. At Victoria Harper's urging, Ethan closed his eyes. He heard a loud bang, like fireworks exploding, but even louder. As if worried his ears couldn't take it, Victoria Harper raised her hands to cover them. When one's eyes are closed, losing sight, the body tenses and becomes more sensitive. Time seemed to stop in that moment. After a few more bangs, Ethan heard a soft, rustling sound around him and a cool, icy sensation landed on his face. All right, you can open your eyes now. Ethan opened his eyes to a sky full of snow. He immediately realized the bangs were from snow machines Victoria Harper had arranged for artificial snow. You gave me fireworks, so I'm giving you a snowfall. Good love is reciprocal. She remembered everything Ethan had given her. Victoria caught a snowflake in her hand and held it out to Ethan. Do you like it? Ethan wiped a snowflake from Victoria Harper's face, his gaze fixed on her lips. I love it. Victoria Harper hadn't liked snow before, but she grew to like it because Ethan did. It might not snow naturally this year, but she would make it snow for him. This is our first snowy day together. There will be countless more. Victoria Harper suddenly realized that winter wasn't just about the cold. She had missed out on so much beautiful scenery before. Victoria Harper let go of Ethan's hand and started twirling on the snowy ground, playing in the snow. Snowflakes dusted her hair, even clinging to her eyelashes. A smile played on Ethan's lips. It was the first time he'd seen this lively side of Victoria Harper. He didn't want to interrupt her, yet he longed to join in. After playing for a while, Victoria Harper reached out to pull Ethan into play with her, but as soon as her hand extended, Ethan caught her wrist. With a smooth pull, he cupped her chin, tilted her head up, and kissed her lips. The series of movements was so swift and commanding, she had no time to react. A fervent kiss landed on her lips. Ethan watched with open eyes as Victoria Harper's gaze gradually grew hazy. He softened his movements, caressing her lips slowly, as if savoring every moment. The PD nearby felt awkward and turned the camera away. Ethan was usually gentle in this regard, but today he was surprisingly fervent. If they weren't filming a show, Victoria Harper would have dragged him into the car. Releasing her lips, Ethan's mouth hovered, brushing tantalizingly close to her cheek and the curve of her ear. Victoria Harper couldn't help but tremble. She buried herself in Ethan's embrace, listening to his heart pounding urgently. Ethan said, reining himself in, I've also prepared a place for our date today. Then let's go. Victoria Harper parted her flushed, moist lips and took a breath. Ethan looked at the snow on the ground. It's just a shame about all this snow. It's not a shame. If you want to play in the snow, we can go up north for the new year. Ethan nodded in agreement. That's a good idea. Once in the car, Ethan handed breakfast to Victoria Harper. He drove for 2 hours, their destination, Six Flags. Victoria Harper had never been to Six Flags. The park wasn't too crowded, and Ethan had bought expensive VIP tickets, so they didn't have to wait in any lines. Victoria Harper was daring and wanted to try all the thrilling rides. Ethan held her hand to prevent her from getting lost. When Victoria Harper got tired from walking, she demanded a piggyback ride, clinging to him like a koala and repeating incessantly, I'm so tired, so tired. I'll carry you. Ethan put his hands behind him, ready. Looking like her scheme had succeeded, Victoria Harper took a few steps back, then sprinted and leaped onto his back. Ethan swayed only slightly before securely holding her legs wrapped around his waist. Victoria Harper rested her head on his shoulder. Hey, handsome, your core strength is really solid. Ethan walked forward. Haven't you tested that out already? Victoria Harper was tired from all the fun, resting on Ethan Johnson's back, her calves swaying gently. Ethan Johnson naturally ran warm, and leaning against him on such a cold day was incredibly comfortable, like sleeping in a sun-drenched cradle. The last attraction was the Ferris wheel. Due to its romantic symbolism, the queue was filled with couples. Ethan Johnson and Victoria Harper stepped inside. As the door closed and the cabin swayed, they sat down, holding hands, and looked out at the view. From high up, the scenery stretched out before them. Ethan Johnson took out his phone to take pictures of Victoria Harper, then couldn't resist taking her hand and giving her a soft kiss on the lips. The Ferris wheel's official promotion claimed that if lovers kissed at the very top, their relationship would last forever. Ethan Johnson had never believed in such things before, but now he wanted to try. It's snowing, Ethan Johnson, Victoria Harper, who had been resting her head on his shoulder, suddenly said. Ethan Johnson looked outside. Sure enough, tiny snowflakes were beginning to drift from the hazy sky. He wasn't mistaken. It was truly snowing this year. Rosewood City hadn't seen snow in many years. After they got off the Ferris wheel, Victoria Harper held out her hand to catch the snow. The rice grain-sized snowflakes melted almost instantly. Ethan Johnson stood beside her, gently brushing a snowflake from her hair. A line of poetry came to his mind, perfectly suited for the moment. If we share this snowfall today, perhaps we are fated to grow old together. Victoria Harper looked at him, and after a moment, teased, snowflakes turning our hair white? They melt as soon as it's warm. That's far too fleeting. I'd rather we grow old together naturally, preferably living to be 100. Then, we wouldn't need a snowfall to share white heads. All right, Ethan Johnson replied. Then let's live to be 100 together. At this point, the accompanying production crew announced that filming had ended. Seeing that it was still early, Ethan Johnson invited everyone to dinner at a nearby restaurant. Because they had been filming outdoors, many people recognized them and secretly took photos and videos, posting them online. Hashtag Ethan Johnson and Victoria Harper officially together. It seemed perfectly reasonable. They were ordinary people, not celebrities or idols. So many supported them. Only a small minority were puzzled about what Victoria Harper saw in Ethan Johnson, while others asserted it was all scripted and they would surely break up once their contract expired. Times like these inevitably brought out the gossip media, meticulously laying out timelines, each entry like a page from a romance memoir. For instance, when did Victoria Harper start liking Ethan Johnson? Apparently, Victoria had her eye on him even when Ethan Johnson and Amelia Harper were still engaged. She had bided her time for years, finally waiting until they broke off their engagement. To pursue Ethan Johnson, she even went as far as investing in a dating show to lure him in, where she could openly chase after him. So, from another perspective, this reality show could also be called the Victoria Harper Husband Chasing Chronicles. Neither Ethan Johnson nor Victoria Harper were big on Twitter. In fact, they weren't interested in other social media apps either, and rarely even scrolled through short videos. After the show finished filming, they both threw themselves into their work. Ethan Johnson made some plans for the former Harper Enterprises assets, and, in his spare time, also helped Victoria Harper manage some of the Harper family's businesses. After they went public, Ethan Johnson would browse online during his breaks and found these netizens' analyses quite insightful. He was also curious. When had Victoria Harper started liking him? And why did she like him? Grace Parker liked him because of a deep childhood affection, and Olivia Bennett liked him because she craved love. Victoria Harper was completely different from them. What could be her reason for liking him? To say it was love at first sight felt a bit hasty, and love grown over time seemed too bland. Ethan Johnson scrolled through Twitter trends, logged in with his alternate account, and clicked into their CP super topic, getting engrossed in the fan theories analyzing their timeline. That evening, Victoria Harper was lying on the bed in her plush pajamas, her hair still damp. Ethan Johnson, while blow-drying her hair, asked, "Victoria, why do you like me?" Ethan Johnson's fingers threaded through her hair, massaging her scalp as the warm air blew over it. She closed her eyes in comfort, her voice languid. "Why do you think?" Ethan Johnson said seriously, "It can't just be because of my looks, can it?" Victoria Harper opened her eyes, looked at Ethan Johnson's face, and said with a smile, "You're so handsome, there's nothing wrong with me liking your face. You should be a bit more confident." Ethan Johnson knew immediately that Victoria Harper was joking. If she truly fell for people based on looks, she wouldn't have been so committed to not marrying in her past life. There was indeed a reason why Victoria Harper had fallen for Ethan Johnson, but those events were somewhat painful for her to recall. Seeing Ethan Johnson's curious and expectant look, Victoria Harper thought for a moment and said, "In a couple of days, after I've thought it through, I'll tell you." Ethan Johnson perked up, feeling that Victoria Harper's hesitation meant she was hiding something from him. Victoria Harper changed the subject. "On Christmas Eve, what voice messages did Grace Parker and Olivia Bennett send you?" Olivia Bennett didn't say much, just apologized to me. Good on her for admitting her mistake and learning to tell right from wrong. She's a good kid. What about Grace Parker? Grace Parker said she'll invite us to her place for dinner in a few days. Aunt Grace used to run a late-night eatery. Remember those buffalo wings I brought back last time? The ones you said were delicious? They're even better fresh. Okay, we could buy some gifts then. With her hair dry, Victoria Harper felt all soft and cuddly. Even without perfume, a natural fragrance emanated from her. She reached out, grabbed her bunny plush, and snuggled it. Every day after work, she'd come home, take a hot shower, and then feel too lazy to move, just want to lie in bed. Only in front of Ethan Johnson could she let down all her defenses and be a carefree girl, without a worry in the world. After putting away the hairdryer, Ethan Johnson got up and lifted Victoria Harper into bed. Time to sleep. Victoria Harper found a comfortable position and lay down. In the middle of the night, she had a habit of sticking her legs out from under the covers. When Ethan Johnson felt her cold feet, he would tuck them back in, only for her to stick them out again shortly after. Ethan Johnson didn't feel like Victoria Harper was only a couple of years younger than him. In his eyes, Victoria Harper was just like a little girl who still needed his care. Not 2 days later, Grace Parker sent Ethan Johnson a text and called Victoria Harper, inviting them to her house for dinner on New Year's Eve. Victoria Harper chose the gifts, a selection of health and wellness products suitable for middle-aged and older people, some edible and some for practical use. Though worth over $100,000, they were carried in an ordinary plastic bag, looking like something casually bought from a nearby supermarket. For someone like Aunt Grace, who was used to being frugal, the plainer and more unpretentious the gift, the less pressure she would feel accepting it. Victoria Harper had been very thoughtful in this regard. On the way, Ethan Johnson drove, while Victoria Harper sat in the passenger seat. What's Aunt Grace like? She's great. When I was a kid, I used to go to her place for food all the time. If I bought late-night snacks, she wouldn't take my money. Knowing I had a big appetite, she'd always give me extra-large portions. Ethan Johnson told Victoria Harper some stories about his childhood, making the journey pass quickly and pleasantly. Their families lived close and were like relatives, perhaps even closer, always helping each other out, visiting each other's homes regularly. When Ethan Johnson went to Grace Parker's for meals, he would also help with chores like washing dishes and cleaning. When Aunt Grace was sick, Ethan Johnson's grandmother would take care of her, and similarly, when Ethan Johnson's grandmother was hospitalized at Mayo Clinic, Aunt Grace would bring her meals. Victoria Harper suddenly felt a wave of nervousness, like she was about to meet the parents. Finally, they arrived at the Parker residence. Victoria Harper immediately liked the surroundings. It was clean and tidy, with vegetables growing in the yard and bougainvillea planted against a wall, climbing upwards. She could imagine how beautiful it would be when they bloomed in spring. From this, one could tell the owner was someone who loved life. The sound of chickens came from inside. Aunt Grace was slaughtering chicken. Aunt Grace, I brought my girlfriend over to freeload a meal. Aunt Grace's eyes widened. She dropped the chicken she was holding, and blood from its neck spurted onto her hand. Without bothering to clean it, she hid her hand behind her back. Quick, come in and sit down. There are drinks inside. I made some bubble tea myself. It might be a bit cold, so heat in the microwave before you drink it. Grace, come out quickly. Ethan Johnson and Victoria are here. Aunt Grace was just as Ethan Johnson had described, warm and hospitable. Having such a beautiful daughter like Grace Parker, it was natural that her own looks weren't lacking either. She had a kind, amiable face and a gentle look in her eyes. Victoria Harper walked forward confidently. Hello, Aunt Grace. I'm Victoria Harper. Aunt Grace was a little flustered. I've been watching the show. You're so beautiful, even more so than on TV. Can I call you Victoria? Of course. I'm already a huge Lu Zhuang Shi Pai fan. You two look so perfect together. Mom, it's CP fan, not Shi Pai fan, Grace Parker corrected as she walked out from inside. Grace Parker, holding a steaming cup of bubble tea, naturally offered it to Victoria Harper. Come on in and sit down. It's cold outside. Have some bubble tea to warm up. Victoria Harper reached out and took it. Thanks. Ethan brought in the gifts they'd bought from the car. He glanced at the two women sitting close together on the sofa, chatting away like best friends at a get-together. After putting the items down, Ethan went straight to the kitchen to help Aunt Margaret with dinner. I originally wanted to invite you all for dinner during Thanksgiving, Aunt Margaret said, but Grace Parker and I were planning to go back to our hometown to pay respects at the family graves around that time. She's going abroad after the New Year. New Year's counts too, Ethan chimed in. Let's just call it an early Thanksgiving. Then he asked, Aunt Margaret, aren't you going with her? Not for now. I definitely wouldn't get used to living abroad. I'll wait for Grace Parker to go first and settle in. Aunt Margaret had prepared a feast, and not only that, she had also made pierogi. She made a large batch, enough that leftovers could be frozen. She even packed a few boxes for Ethan and Victoria to take home, proudly stating, they're homemade and healthy, with no artificial anything. Aunt Margaret served everyone a bowl of pierogi. Eating pierogi on Thanksgiving is for good luck. We usually have tangyuan around here, but Grace Parker doesn't like sweet things, so I made savory dumplings instead. She looked at Victoria Harper. Victoria, try them. See if you like them. Victoria Harper picked one up with her chopsticks. It was her favorite, shrimp dumplings. Delicious. Then have some more. Eat slowly, they're hot. Victoria hadn't eaten more than two when she bit down on something hard. She paused, then opened her mouth, and with a soft clink, a silver coin dropped into her bowl. You found a silver coin, Aunt Margaret exclaimed. We have a custom here. Whoever finds the coin will have good luck for the whole year. Did you chip your tooth? She asked, concerned. Victoria Harper picked the coin out of her bowl. No, it was the first time she had experienced such a warm family atmosphere, and a gentle warmth spread through her heart. She enjoyed the meal immensely. At the table of four, three of them were doting on her. Ethan served her rice, Grace Parker ladled soup for her, and Aunt Margaret kept placing food on her plate. Is the food to your liking? Aunt Margaret asked. Victoria Harper, already full, put down her chopsticks and said earnestly, "It was wonderful. If you liked it, you should come over often when you're free. Annie will cook for you, free of charge." The atmosphere was joyful and harmonious. The four of them were simply enjoying a meal together. As they were leaving, Aunt Margaret packed a freshly dressed chicken into a bag for Ethan to take home to make soup. Once they were in the car, Ethan revealed the truth to Victoria Harper. Aunt Margaret definitely knew where the coin was in those pierogies she made. She must have secretly marked it and deliberately served it to you. She's such a kind person. In all her life, Victoria Harper had met very few people who showed her kindness without any ulterior motives. Aunt Margaret was one of them. Even though Victoria had, in a sense, stolen the man her daughter liked, Aunt Margaret didn't seem to mind at all. Victoria Harper finally understood why Ethan had once liked Grace Parker. A daughter raised by someone like Aunt Margaret couldn't be anything but good. "Isn't your old high school near here?" Victoria asked. "It's about a 30-minute drive." "Why? Do you want to go see it?" Ethan asked. He believed the best way to understand a person was to visit the places where they grew up, and he very much wanted to see Victoria Harper's school. "Let's go." Victoria Harper wore her hair in a high ponytail that day, making her look like a college student, brimming with youthful energy. Factoring in his past life, Ethan hadn't been back here in 10 or 20 years. After they got out of the car, he took Victoria Harper's hand, and they strolled around the area. The school had changed quite a bit. Many new snack shops had popped up nearby, and several new buildings stood on campus. Security guards were at the gate, preventing strangers from entering freely. Ethan could only walk around the perimeter with Victoria Harper, pointing out familiar shops from his memory and telling her about them. "See that Buffalo Wings place? When I was in school, I used to order from there all the time when I was hungry. As soon as class let out, I'd run to the school gate and wave. The guards wouldn't let students out, so the owner, the lady boss, would bring the Buffalo Wings over. And their spicy ramen. It was only $3 a box, clean and delicious. $10 of pocket money could buy you a ton of food back then. We could walk around a bit longer, and when school gets out, we can join the elementary school kids in the rush for snacks." The landscaping outside the school consisted of ginkgo trees, their leaves all fallen in the winter. Victoria Harper suddenly said, "Ginkgo trees are most beautiful in autumn." Ethan agreed. "These ginkgo trees have been here since I was in school. Come autumn, this whole area turns golden yellow. On the other side, there are osmanthus trees." "I know. I've been here before." Ethan stopped in his tracks. "When?" Victoria Harper looked up at him. 7 years ago. I came looking for you. You were in your second year of high school then. It was right from the spot. You could see the sports field inside. You were standing on the stage, reading a self-criticism. That day, I saw a paper airplane in the sky. In a moment unknown to anyone, even to Ethan who hadn't known she existed, he had found his way into her heart. That day's paper airplane had flown into many hearts, and it had flown into hers too. The 17-year-old Ethan, brimming with youthful spirit, had unknowingly captivated the 20-year-old Victoria Harper. Victoria's few words revealed so much. He'd never imagined that a casual remark he'd once made, a paper airplane he'd carelessly tossed, would have been seen by Victoria. "You said you came looking for me back then, but we didn't even know each other at that time, did we?" Victoria kicked a small stone at her feet. "You didn't know me, but I knew you, and I've known you for a very long time." Ethan watched the stone Victoria had kicked roll a full circle before someone else inadvertently kicked it back towards them. He stepped on it, stopping. When was this? He met Amelia 3 years ago. It was through Amelia that he'd gradually connected with Harper Enterprises, and only then had he met Victoria. He still remembered the first time he saw her, at a banquet. Victoria had been sitting in an inconspicuous corner. When Amelia introduced them, he'd looked over. The instant their eyes met, Victoria had suddenly shattered the glass in her hand, causing a minor scene. Out of politeness, he hadn't stared, but throughout the entire event, he'd felt a gaze on his back. Victoria said, 15. When you were 15, I was only 12, not even out of elementary school. How could you have known me? Someone like Victoria wasn't a person he could meet and simply forget. Ethan racked his brain. Unsure what thought had struck him, he chuckled. It couldn't be that we met online, could it? Victoria asked casually. Do you remember Whisper? Ethan frowned. Victoria's eyes instantly dimmed. She forced a smile and changed the subject. Never mind if you don't. I'm a bit hungry now. Let's go across the street and get something to eat. I'm craving fries and fettuccine. Victoria had changed the subject. Ethan still wanted to ask, but didn't know how to bring it up, as he could clearly sense she was hiding a secret. Was she unwilling to tell him? Or did she not know how to say it? And what on earth was Whisper? Victoria wouldn't just bring up a word like that out of the blue. The matter was left unresolved, leaving Ethan alone to ponder. The more he couldn't figure things out, the more they tormented him, an unbearable itch deep in his soul. He could only try to distract himself with other things. Victoria, however, seemed to be enjoying it. She didn't want to reveal anything outright, preferring to wait for Ethan to discover and piece it together himself. Someday, on his path of discovery, he would understand why he had become her entire universe. The process of discovery was often more meaningful than simply being told the answer. However, what arrived before the truth was an accident. Whether at work or resting, whenever his mind had a moment's pause, he would involuntarily analyze Victoria's words. He searched online for Whisper and finally remembered it, a social media app from many years ago, very niche, with few downloads. He had used it for a couple of years, but one day the servers crashed, and the app vanished without a trace. It was no wonder Ethan couldn't recall it. It had been many years, after all. Who remembers every app they casually downloaded back in elementary school? So, had he and Victoria met as online friends on Whisper? What was her screen name then? The answer seemed to be right in front of him, yet it felt utterly unreal. In his mind, Victoria wasn't the type for online romance. Surely, a 15-year-old her couldn't have had feelings for an elementary school kid like him, right? And for those feelings to have lasted so many years, if this had happened to someone else, it might be understandable, but with Victoria, it felt absurd. Ethan decided to find someone to repair Whisper, wondering if he could recover the old chat logs. Just as Ethan was engrossed in finding someone to fix the app, he received a call. Victoria had been in a car accident. Drenched in cold sweat, Ethan rushed to the Mayo Clinic, the sleeve of the jacket in his hand dragging on the ground, completely unnoticed by him. Victoria was in the intensive care unit, and 4 drip in the back of her hand. Her executive assistant had just returned after settling the bill. Ethan first checked Victoria's condition. Her arms and legs were intact, though she had several abrasions. The most serious seemed to be the bump on her forehead. The doctor mentioned a mild concussion and that her adrenaline levels were significantly elevated. Ethan had never seen Victoria so weak. His heart ached terribly, as if invisible hands were constantly pulling and squeezing it. He gently took Victoria's cold hand and asked the executive assistant beside him, "What happened?" The executive assistant explained the whole incident. It was a minor chain reaction rear-end collision. The driver of their car was more seriously injured than Victoria, but there was nothing life-threatening. Just as the executive assistant finished explaining, Victoria woke up. She looked at Ethan warily. "Who are you? Where am I? Why am I here?" she demanded loudly, her face growing even paler with anxiety. She ripped the 4 needle from the back of her hand, and blood immediately gushed out. Wincing in pain, she shook her hand. Ethan reached out to help stop the bleeding. Victoria, as if triggered, raised her hand and slapped Ethan hard across the face. Not only was Ethan stunned, but the executive assistant was also dumbfounded. The assistant backed away, retreating all the way to the door before turning and rushing off. "I'll go get the attending physician." Only Ethan and Victoria remained in the empty hospital room, staring at each other. "Victoria, what's wrong?" Her condition was clearly not right, but Ethan didn't want to jump to the worst conclusions. At home, they would sometimes engage in playful role-playing scenarios, a possessive nurse, a strict teacher. Sometimes Victoria would even adopt an amnesiac persona, demanding Ethan play out a game of forceful seduction. If Ethan refused to play along, she would pester him relentlessly. Initially, Ethan would feel a bit embarrassed, but he was always captivated by Victoria's costumes and personas, and she would easily win him over. So, with Victoria suddenly acting this way, he wondered if she was just teasing him, playing a joke. "I'm Ethan. Don't you recognize me?" Ethan asked in a low voice. Beneath Victoria's wary expression was a flicker of panic. She watched Ethan nervously, afraid he would come closer. If this was an act, her performance was good enough to outshine many Hollywood actors. Soon, the doctor arrived. Based on the examination results, Victoria had amnesia. She believed she was 15 years old. This outcome was completely unexpected for Ethan. 15 years old. Her memory had regressed 12 years. Ethan asked the doctor, "Can her memory be restored?" "There's a good chance of recovery. Let's keep her hospitalized for observation for a while." The doctor couldn't make any firm promises. Brain injuries involved many uncertainties and were generally treated based on the individual's specific situation and constitution. Ethan understood. As long as her life wasn't in danger, he could accept an amnesiac Victoria. He had made her fall in love with him once. He could make her fall in love with him a second time. At worst, he would just have to woo her all over again. Once he came to terms with that, there was nothing to fret over. Ethan re-entered the hospital room. Victoria was still very wary of him. Her eyes no longer filled with gentle affection, but with cold, distant caution. The sudden change left Ethan struggling to adapt. Victoria had learned about her situation from the executive assistant and the doctor. Finding herself in a strange place with strangers, it was natural for her to be guarded. "They said you're my boyfriend?" "Yes, we just made our relationship official a few months ago. If you don't believe me, you can check your phone." Ethan handed her the phone. Victoria took it. She looked very awkward with it. Could amnesia even change one's habits with a phone? Victoria found the photo album and discovered that more than half the pictures were of Ethan, seemingly candid shots. Her contact name for Ethan was "My Dearest Hubby." She frowned, played a voice message, and her frown deepened the more she listened, until she finally couldn't stand it and turned it off. "I would never get a boyfriend, especially not someone like you. I'm against marriage," Victoria stated very seriously, looking at Ethan with an impatient expression, as if men were utter trash in her eyes. The 27-year-old Victoria was adept at hiding her emotions, skilled at masking her true feelings. But this 15-year-old Victoria was bristling with teenage hostility. At first, Victoria had thought she'd encountered a scamming ring. All she remembered was getting caught in the rain and developing a fever. How had she woken up here? She went to the powder room and looked in the mirror. The woman in the mirror was mature and tall, with a great figure. The face was still hers, but healthier and more beautiful, far beyond what her 15-year-old self could compare to. So this was what she looked like at 27? Not bad. In any case, with evidence from multiple sources, Victoria eventually believed Ethan. She asked him, "How do we fall in love? Why would I like you?" "You're asking me? Who should I ask?" Ethan genuinely didn't know. Victoria had left him one clue and said no more, letting him figure out himself. He'd been mulling it over for so long and was just on the verge of finding the answer when a car accident sent Victoria back to being 15. Wait a minute. 15. Wasn't that the age Victoria said she first knew him? Perhaps he could get the answer from Miss Victoria. Ethan asked, "Do you really have no memory of me at all?" Victoria shook her head. "None." Ethan pressed. "Then do you know Whisper?" Victoria, "No." This was strange. Ethan showed her the app he was halfway through repairing. "It's this chat app. No one at your school uses it." "I'm busy studying every day. Who has time to play on their phone?" After losing her memory, Victoria was clearly struggling to adapt to her current surroundings. Curious about everything, she kept asking to be discharged from a hospital. Apart from the amnesia, there seemed to be no other issues. After a 3-day hospital stay, the doctors said she could be discharged. Ethan took Victoria home from the hospital. He wanted to take her to familiar places, hoping it might jog her memory. Truth be told, faced with a Victoria whose memories stopped at age 15, he didn't know how to interact with her. He always felt like she was just a middle schooler. For example, the first thing she did after leaving the hospital was buy some exam prep books from a nearby bookstore, saying she needed to go back and review for the Zhongkao, the high school entrance exam. "You're 27 now, not 15. The Zhongkao is long over." "Did I do well on my Zhongkao?" "Very well. You got into the city's top high school, tuition-free." "That's great." Victoria couldn't hide her joy, hopping like a child. "What about college?" Ethan told Victoria everything he knew. She'd attended a great university, built a large company, had a lot of money, and high status. Hearing all this, Victoria felt like she was in a dream. It all seemed so unreal. "What about the Harper family?" "Edward Harper is dead. Victor is in prison." "Did I do that?" The 15-year-old Victoria had hated everyone in the Harper family, consumed by thoughts of revenge. So, she'd never imagined she would fall in love with someone, especially a man a couple of years younger than her. Victoria asked again, "Why would I like you?" It was clear this really bothered her. Romance and marriage were never part of her plans. She found it strange that the man before her could make her change those plans. "Maybe because I'm handsome," Ethan said, uncharacteristically narcissistic. Victoria frowned, humphed twice, and asked, "Then why would you like me?" Ethan listed reasons. "Many things. For example, you're gentle, generous, understanding, and you know how to be adorably coquettish." Victoria quickly interrupted. "Are you sure you're talking about me?" "At least, that's how you are with me." Victoria suddenly fell silent, her head bowed, ears turning red. "What do you want to eat today? I'll make it for you." "Anything's fine. Then I'll make your favorite, beef stew with green beans." Ethan brought Victoria back home. Along the way, she was like a curious child, looking around at everything. "Watch some TV in the living room. I'll go make dinner." Victoria surveyed her surroundings. The place was filled with traces of their life together. Shoes in her size, clothes in her favorite styles in the wardrobe, photos scattered around the rooms. She stared blankly at a picture of herself. Could her future self really smile so happily? Outwardly, she refused to accept Ethan as her boyfriend, but inwardly, she had to admit he was genuinely good to her. He knew what she wanted with just a look. Ethan noticed she didn't know how to turn on the TV, so he switched it on for her. He cooked in the kitchen, waiting for her to gradually adjust. When he came out, after finishing the meal, he found Victoria working on test papers at the coffee table. The doctor told you to rest well. Victoria put down her pen. If I don't do problems, I can't calm down. She was afraid she'd fall behind if she slacked off. Ethan didn't try to persuade her further. The doctor had also said to let her go at her own pace and not to pressure or overstimulate her. Ethan took a closer look at Victoria's test paper. She was doing high school problems. Her handwriting was also different from before her amnesia. Victoria usually wrote in a semi-cursive script, but the writing on the paper was neat standard script. After scanning it, Ethan pointed to a problem. The formula here is wrong. Victoria's eyes filled with a thirst for knowledge. Ethan squatted down, took the pen from her hand, and explained it to her on a scratch paper. Victoria was very smart. She understood immediately and could even apply the concept to other problems. Aren't you only in your third year of middle school? Why are you doing high school problems? I've pretty much finished the middle school material. I want to study ahead. If there's anything you don't understand, ask me. I'll teach you. Victoria finally smiled at him. But for now, let's eat. Ethan had mixed the noodles. They looked and smelled delicious, instantly whetting her appetite. Victoria hadn't been hungry, but now she suddenly felt famished. After she washed her hands and returned, Ethan had already finished mixing the noodles. He knew she didn't like cilantro, so he hadn't added any. She held her chopsticks and ate heartily, like a little hamster from an anime. Ethan habitually took care of her. For instance, seeing her hair falling in her face, he reached out to tuck it back. Who knew that, at his touch, Victoria would jump like a startled bunny and glare at him. Your hair was about to fall into your bowl. Ethan handed her the hair tie from his wrist. When the weather turned cold, Victoria didn't like tying her hair up. It acted like a scarf to keep her warm. The only inconvenience was when eating, so Ethan always carried a hair tie for her. After dinner, Ethan washed the dishes while Victoria did her homework. She left the problem she didn't understand blank for Ethan to teach her. She studied straight until 9:30. Ethan himself wasn't used to such intense studying. If it didn't stop her, Victoria would probably study all night. Ethan reminded her, "That's enough studying for today. Time to wash up and go to bed." Victoria looked at him, cautious and wary. "Where do I sleep?" "You can sleep in the master bedroom. I'll sleep next door." The master bedroom had an en-suite bathroom. Victoria went into the bedroom and locked the door behind her. Seeing a pink fox plushie incongruously on the bed, she felt a slight tug at her heart. She looked at the tablet in the room. After unlocking it with facial recognition, she awkwardly searched for information about the economic development over the past 12 years. The hospital had diagnosed her with amnesia. Her memory stuck at age 15. But she felt like she had time-traveled 12 years into the future. Could someone really change this much after losing their memory? Even her habits had changed. She didn't know how to turn on the TV, seemed stuck in middle school, only able to do middle school problems. Her entire understanding of the world was that of a 15-year-old girl. Ethan inexplicably felt like he was raising a daughter, even though just a couple of days ago, this was his wife. Ethan had no idea how long this state of hers would last. Victoria loved to study, but she couldn't possibly do it 24 hours a day. Ethan made a comprehensive study plan for her and took her out to have fun. They went to concerts, visited temple fairs, went to aquatic park. He made sure she experienced everything a 15-year-old Victoria might have missed out on. Since Victoria lost her memory, she'd taken off her wedding ring, not being used to it. Looking at her bare finger always made Ethan's heart skip a beat. And Victoria, who had initially been distant and wary, gradually opened up to him. She started to become curious about the world, to love life, and to understand why the 27-year-old Victoria had fallen for Ethan. When she first arrived, Victoria was constantly anxious and uneasy, like a startled little animal, struggling to adapt. Ethan took care of her emotional needs. Knowing she liked sweets, he'd bake cakes and make various snacks to distract her. When she was on the verge of an emotional breakdown, he could sense it immediately and help her through it. Victoria saw and learned so many new things here, which made her even more determined to work hard. She never believed in getting something for nothing. If you wanted something, you had to work for it. To be exceptional, to stand above others, you had to put in many times more effort than an ordinary person. Only then could you withstand the blows of fate. Victoria didn't ask much about her life. If she knew everything, there would be fewer surprises, and it would be easy to lose one's resolve. Besides doing worksheets, Victoria used her tablet the most. Online, she saw that she and Ethan were trending on Twitter. Clicking on it, she realized it was from a reality show. She couldn't help but grumble. So frivolous? They actually went on a dating show. Despite her words, her fingers honestly clicked on the program. Watching herself chase a man from a third-person perspective was a strange feeling. But she had to admit, the 27-year-old Victoria had truly become the person she'd always imagined. Bright, confident, daring to love and pursue, and not backing down even when Ethan rejected her. These past few days, Ethan hadn't gone to work, staying home to take care of her, helping her with homework, and playing with her. Over the weekend, Ethan took Victoria to the zoo. On the way, they bought any tasty snacks or fun trinkets they saw. Ethan ended up carrying a load of things, and Victoria had her hands full too. When Ethan saw Victoria's shoelace was untied, he immediately crouched down and tied it for her before she could even react. Victoria blushed a little shy, her gaze flitting about, unsure where to look. When they reached a crowded area, Victoria proactively reached out and grabbed the hem of Ethan's shirt, so she wouldn't have to worry about getting separated from him. That evening, Victoria said she wanted barbecue. Luckily, they had a grill and charcoal at home, and the yard was big enough, so there were no safety concerns. Ethan got the charcoal going, washed and chopped the ingredients, and took them outside to put on skewers. Victoria sat across from Ethan. What if I never remember? If you don't, you don't. It's better than losing an arm or a leg. So, do you like the me now or the me before? Ethan didn't stop skewering the food as he replied, You're still you. It's just that the current you hasn't fallen in love with me yet, so I'll have to work hard to make you like me again. I have plenty of time, anyway. Meat sizzled on the grill, a bit of smoke rising. Ethan brushed on a layer of seasoning, flipped the meat, and continued grilling. The sausages and pork belly were already cooked, so they were ready once the outside was slightly charred. Ethan placed the ready-to-eat pieces on a plate and handed it to Victoria. Victoria picked a sausage and, halfway through eating it, said, If I told you I traveled here from the past to the future, would you believe me? It was such an outlandish thing to say. No one would believe it. She figured Ethan would just think she'd hit her head too hard. But then, the next second, Ethan said directly, I believe you. Victoria burst out laughing. You believe something so ridiculous. Why wouldn't I? I noticed something was off about you from the very first day. Someone with amnesia shouldn't forget all their habits. Not knowing the way home is one thing. Not being able to work the TV could be explained, but your handwriting and the fact you've been doing high school problems lately. None of it seems like amnesia. There was another reason Ethan could believe her. He himself had been reborn. If he could return from the past to the present, then it was possible for others too. He just didn't know if this had happened to the Victoria of his previous life. So, tell me, what were you doing before you came here? Having finished her sausage, Victoria toyed with the skewer. I was sick with a fever. I asked my teacher for sick leave and went back to my dorm. I took some medicine, went to sleep, and when I opened my eyes, I was here. I don't know if I can go back. The 15-year-old Victoria had appeared in her 27-year-old body. Did that mean the 27-year-old Victoria had returned to her 15-year-old body? Victoria had said she knew him when she was 15, so that's what it meant. The moment he understood, Ethan's scalp tingled. He stared unblinkingly at Victoria beside him. Why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face? Victoria touched her cheek. Ethan looked away, then handed her a chicken drumstick. I just figured out something unexpected and quite wonderful. The feeling was hard to describe, like racking your brains over a difficult problem and finally, after constant effort, solving it. In that instant of sudden clarity, a sense of accomplishment surged through every part of him. Since you've come all this way to the future, I can tell you anything you want to know. For example, the college entrance exam questions, winning lottery numbers. Victoria shook her head, refusing. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to be someone who gets things without working for them. Since I came here by accident, I should follow the rules of this world. She believed that everything the 27-year-old her possessed was earned through her own abilities. Only by taking steady, solid steps could she stand firm. Victoria's response was exactly what Ethan had anticipated. Although he'd figured some things out, many strange questions remained. Since the 15-year-old Victoria had met him by coming to the future early, why hadn't she looked for him after she went back? What had happened in between? After the barbecue, it was getting late, so Ethan put the grill away. Back inside, he resumed working on restoring the software. Victoria looked at the words on the screen. What's Whisper? It's a chat app. It disappeared several years ago. I've been trying to get someone to restore it lately. Ethan asked his previous question again. Are you sure you've never seen this app? Why don't you try to think about it a bit more? Victoria looked at it carefully for a moment, then shook her head again. Victoria wouldn't have mentioned this app for no reason. Ethan pulled several all-nighters and finally managed to restore the software and recover his account. Under the combined mental and physical strain, Ethan fell ill. Ethan felt like he'd been asleep for ages, his body as if submerged in scorching sand. His throat ached, his chest felt tight, he had no strength, and his eyes felt like they'd been smoked dry by fire, stinging and painful when he managed to open them. He heard a knock. Just as he was trying to sit up, the door opened and Victoria Harper walked in. His vision swam with dark spots, his body utterly drained. It was like sleep paralysis. He'd managed to open his eyes, but an instant later, an unseen force slammed them shut, pinning him to the bed. Victoria Harper was talking to him. He couldn't make out the words, but her presence alone was a huge comfort. After a moment, a soothing coolness touched his forehead. When Ethan woke again, he felt much better. Victoria Harper was beside him, working on some papers, and she turned immediately at the sound of him stirring. Feeling any better? Much better. I made some congee. You just rest in bed. I'll bring it over, Victoria Harper said, already dashing towards the kitchen. She moved so quickly Ethan worried she might trip. In less than 3 minutes, she was back with the congee. She made a vegetable and lean pork congee. It didn't need any side dishes. After a quick wash-up, Ethan started eating. Under Victoria Harper's expectant gaze, he praised the congee. This is delicious. Eating a warm bowl of congee like this when you're sick is so comforting. I'm really glad you were here this time. Thank you. Don't mention it. If you hadn't been helping me adjust these past few days, you wouldn't have gotten sick from exhaustion. I couldn't find any peppermint oil capsules at home, so I bought these. Victoria Harper poured a glass of water, checked the temperature, and held it to Ethan's lips. Take your medicine first. Ethan reached out, took it, and swallowed the pills under her watchful eye. You just rest at home today. Don't go anywhere. Okay, I won't. Can I use the computer for a bit? I fixed that software last night. Only after Victoria Harper agreed did Ethan open his laptop. Victoria Harper watched Ethan curiously as he worked. Is that your account? What's your username? Ethan clicked on his username, and Victoria Harper saw it clearly. Ethan's word. A name that suited his real one well. Victoria blurted out, if I can go back, I'll add you as a friend. What username would you pick for yourself then? Probably something related to my name too. The software wasn't fully restored yet. Ethan could only see his own account for now. Ethan closed the laptop. His fever hadn't completely broken, and with the medicine kicking in, he was starting to feel drowsy again. Victoria Harper sat on the edge of the bed. When do you plan to propose to her? Her. The grown-up me. This year. I've already started planning. Do you want to know? Victoria Harper shook her head. No, I don't. It's just, I never imagined I'd get married, so I'm a little curious. If you're curious, why do you want to know? Because it's your surprise. What if our memories merge? The 27-year-old me would find out early, and then it wouldn't be a surprise anymore. Victoria Harper looked down at her hands. Tell me about yourself. Where did you live when you were little? Where did you go to school? Ethan's voice was hoarse as he slowly told Victoria Harper about his childhood, leaving out the parts about his parents' abuse, focusing only on the happy memories from elementary school through high school. He recounted whatever came to mind. Towards the end, his voice grew softer and softer until, under the effect of the medication, his eyes closed. In a daze, he heard Victoria Harper whisper something. Thank fate for bringing me here, for letting me fall in love with you ahead of time. These 4 days have been like a beautiful dream. But dreams always end. Ethan, thank you for teaching me how to love someone and how to love myself. When Ethan woke again, it was already 2 in the afternoon. Sunlight streamed through a gap in the curtains. He had slept deeply this time, without any recurrence of the sleep paralysis. He woke up to find his fever gone, though his muscles were still a bit sore. He turned over, instinctively pulling the person beside him closer. It was only when he caught the scent of Victoria Harper's hair that he jolted fully awake. Victoria Harper, in his bed? Had he made a move on her? Her body was 27, but her soul was still that of a minor. The logic was unsettling. Thinking too much about it brought on a wave of guilt. Just as he was wondering what to do, Victoria Harper's eyes fluttered open. She blinked, her gaze hazy at first. Seeing him inching away, trying to avoid her, she reached out and looped an arm around his neck. Why are you avoiding me? With those words, Ethan knew Victoria Harper was back. Yin Yen. Victoria Harper leaned in and kissed his lips, then nuzzled his neck like a kitten. Ethan, I'm back. Did you miss me? Ethan hugged her back, kissing the top of her head. I missed you. Can you tell me about your experience? Back in her 3rd year of middle school, A 15-year-old Victoria Harper had come down with a high fever, spending 4 listless days sick in bed. After she recovered, she found a new app on her phone, Whisper. At the same time, a man had appeared in her memories. She couldn't recall his name or his face. Just trying to think about him made her head ache. It was like a long dream she couldn't quite grasp upon waking, fragmented pieces scattered like sand in the wind. She grew anxious. Always a loner at school with no real friends, she had no one she could ask for help. Her only clue was the new chat app on her phone. She opened it and saw a search history entry below the search bar. Ethan's word. She tapped the search, but no such user was found. Was it a dream, or was it real? Victoria Harper couldn't find an answer. Cautious by nature, she should have uninstalled the strange app, but it felt as if some unseen force was stopping her. Looking at the notes and test papers she'd apparently done during her 4-day illness, she noticed a distinct change in her handwriting. This made her suspect her body might have been possessed by something. Full of doubt, Victoria Harper went to the Mayo Clinic for a full checkup. The results showed nothing unusual. She described her situation to the doctor, who suggested she visit the Springfield Mental Health Center. Her problems weren't resolved there either. Even the psychologist told her she was likely experiencing hallucinations due to stress, possibly even dissociative identity disorder, and recommended early treatment. The medical expenses were high, so Victoria Harper didn't pursue it further. Yet, this man whose name and face she couldn't remember remained persistently in her mind. She dreamed he took her to Aquatic Park, helped her study, and cooked meals for her on a cast-iron stove. She kept Whisper on her phone. It stayed there until high school. In her senior year, when she was 18, she searched for Ethan's word in the app again. This time, the space below the search bar wasn't empty. A user profile appeared. Victoria Harper sent a friend request. "Hello, I'm Serious Yen." Ever since the end of middle school, she hadn't just gained an extra voice in her head. There were other things too. At 18, with the help of those strange memories, she inherited her mother's estate and used the money to seize a business opportunity. Whisper quickly became her go-to app, and among all her chat contacts, there was only one she cared about, Ethan. Back then, she didn't even know his name. Ethan loved sharing snippets of his life on Whisper, photos of food with thoughtful captions. It was clear he was a bright, life-loving teenager. After becoming friends on the app, they started chatting often, liking each other's posts. She grew increasingly curious about him. What Victoria Harper didn't yet realize was that curiosity is the first step to falling for someone. She couldn't help it. Her desire to know more about him spiraled. She refreshed her feed obsessively, hoping for a new post. She revisited his profile countless times, trying to piece together what kind of life he had lived. She wondered what he ate that day, who he spent time with, whether there were girls who had a crush on him. She saw a rainbow after the rain and wanted to send him a photo of it. With money came the ability to finally see a therapist. Every diagnosis came back the same. She had a mental illness, and they urged her to begin treatment. Victoria Harper didn't disagree. Someone like her, who had long given up on love, couldn't believe she was obsessing over a blurry figure from a dream, or that she had transferred those dream-born emotions onto a 15-year-old boy. At 20, she worked up the courage to secretly visit Ethan. She found out which school he went to. On the way, she passed the Buffalo Wings joint he'd posted about, the footbridge sunset he photographed, the fragrant osmanthus-lined path, the street food stalls, and that golden ginkgo-lined road. She stood outside the school fence, watching the morning drills. Students in uniform filled the field. Ethan was 17. She scanned the crowd, hoping to spot him. Then she heard a voice, clear and loud. "If standing up to bullies is wrong, then I'll never regret it. I'm Ethan, and that's my reflection." His voice rang out like thunder. Birds flew overhead. Leaves drifted to the ground. A paper airplane danced in the wind. Victoria stood on tiptoe and saw the boy on stage, glowing under the morning sun. In that moment, the beautiful fantasy she'd long held finally took form. Once she acknowledged her feelings for Ethan, jealousy quickly followed. She envied his blanket and pillow for accompanying him to sleep, the person who took his photos, his classmates, and his posts. People who could talk to him freely, share meals, laugh. She even envied the street stalls near his school and the paths he often walked. She wanted to get close to him without restraint, to learn everything about him, to witness every small change in his life. She longed to see the parts of him that the internet couldn't show. Victoria Harper wasn't someone who believed in soulmates. Love was never essential, just a garnish in the meal of life. A good romance could add a little sweetness, but she would be fine without it. She never thought she'd get married. She carried too much hatred, and revenge consumed her. What would come after vengeance? She had no idea. But the moment she saw Ethan, everything changed. She wanted answers. Was this young Ethan somehow connected to the man from her dreams? At 22, Victoria became an exchange student abroad, missing the most painful year of Ethan's life. Even so, she continued watching him from afar on Twitter. At some point, Ethan stopped posting altogether. His profile picture turned black. "If I don't want to live anymore, what should I do?" That was one of his last tweets. Victoria met him. "If you don't know how to keep going, try finding something you like. Or someone." What she really meant was, try liking me. He was 19, old enough to fall in love. She messaged him often, trying to lift his spirits. Ethan didn't reply much, but he read every message. Then Whisper went offline. The app was shut down, the company behind it bankrupt. And just like that, from a continent away, Victoria Harper lost all connection with Ethan. She'd been through too much. So many traumas had made her wary of love, made her believe she didn't deserve it. Her world was full of danger. She had to clear every obstacle before she could safely stand in front of Ethan and say, "This is me." She never expected their first real-life meeting to happen at a Harper Enterprises family banquet. Ethan, introduced as her niece's fiancé. The end of a relationship is never caused by just one thing. Even when love becomes a cage, some people willingly remain trapped. At 25 or 26, Victoria Harper was exactly that, a caged beast staring longingly, helplessly at Ethan on the outside. Her heart had once been a barren wasteland, and yet when he passed through it, everything bloomed. Now that sentiment could only be read in reverse. She tried to fight for him, but Ethan treated her like a stranger, distant and cold. Every time she tried to test the waters, the answer remained the same. He loved Amelia Harper. When Ethan asked why she had ever liked him, Victoria wondered how to explain it. Should she tell him about the vague hallucinations she had at 15? That she was already drawn to him in dreams? Or that she had secretly crushed on him online while he was still underage? For the longest time, she'd thought she had dissociative identity disorder. She never imagined that she had actually traveled through time, falling in love with a 24-year-old Ethan 12 years in the future. Time travel defies the natural laws, and perhaps some glitch made her forget. Only once the loop closed did everything return to her. Victoria told Ethan that the 27-year-old loved him, because it was he who had made the 15-year-old her feel loved for the first time. It wasn't love at first sight. It was his gentleness, his warmth, that made her fall so deeply for 17-year-old Ethan. Together, they worked to restore Whisper's chat history. When the records came back, Ethan saw her username, Solemn Smoke. Memories came crashing back like a broken dam. He remembered that name vividly. It looked like a perfect match with his own username, Graveword. That's why he'd accepted her friend request in the first place. Back in middle school, Ethan had a flair for the dramatic. He added countless strangers and shared daily snippets on Whisper, a song, a quote, a photo. At 19, when he returned to the Johnson family, he spiraled into depression. He stopped posting, changed his profile photo to black. One night, at his lowest, he tweeted, "What should I do if I don't want to live anymore?" There were many replies, some comforting, some cruel. But one DM stood out. "If you don't know how to keep going, try finding something you like. Or someone." That same night, on the rooftop of the Mayo Clinic, Amelia Harper appeared and echoed the same words. "If you can't find a reason to live, why not try liking me?" He said yes. And just like that, he had a reason to keep going. Ethan accepted Amelia's proposal. After that night, a therapist proactively contacted Ethan. He actively cooperated with the treatment. It was as if a group of kind people had suddenly appeared at school, surrounding him, concerned about his well-being. His counselor, the campus physician, his roommates. All these people later spoke up for him when he was targeted by online bullying led by Harper Enterprises. Under the therapist's care, his condition gradually improved, and he began to forget some of the painful things. When he thought about opening Whisper again to share an update, he found the app was gone. There were too many social media apps back then. If one Whisper disappeared, there were others. Besides, Whisper was a niche app. Once it was gone, it was truly gone. Ethan looked at the DMs Victoria Harper had sent him back then, the ones he hadn't read. She had encouraged him to live positively, to learn to love himself. She praised his efforts and his character. She said he was amazing, and she also said she had liked him for a long time, that he wasn't unloved. If Whisper hadn't glitched and disappeared back then, if he'd seen those DMs, could his love story with Victoria Harper have started sooner? The therapist I saw. Did you find her for me? I did. And the campus physician at school who looked after me. I arranged that too. So, Victoria Harper had unknowingly permeated his life long ago, silently working behind the scenes to save him. Ethan, It was only today that I realized it was because you first gave me love that I learned how to love you. My only regret is that I wasn't by your side when you needed someone to love you the most. But if it weren't for your message, I would have died long ago." Ethan couldn't help but wonder about the Victoria Harper from his past life. Was there a transmigration, a swap? Did she like him? Did she remain unmarried because that was her life plan, or was it because of him? Ethan had no way to verify it, but that was all in the past. An unfortunate past had given way to a complete and happy life. One shouldn't be trapped in painful memories. Since fate had given him a rebirth, it was meant for him to turn the page. The reality show's season finale aired right on Thanksgiving Day. Victoria Harper took Ethan to Greenwood Memorial Park, bringing flowers and offerings to visit her mother. The woman in the photo had a serene smile. Ethan lit the incense and candles and arranged the offerings. Victoria Harper's mother didn't like alcohol, so they placed a bottle of yogurt and a small cake Ethan had personally baked in front of her. "Mom, I've come to see you, and I brought your son-in-law to be along." Victoria Harper looked a lot like her mother, especially when she smiled. Hearing this, Ethan dutifully knelt, burning joss paper while saying, "Hello, Aunt Linda. I'm Ethan from the Johnson family. My Chinese name is Yin. The Yin, that means speech. I love Victoria Harper, and I swear here that I will be good to Victoria Harper for a lifetime, love her for a lifetime, never betray her, and cherish every second I spend with her." Victoria Harper, standing by, chuckled. "You sound like you're proposing. I'm reporting to Aunt Linda. Can I propose to you? You need to ask my mom for a proposal too?" "Yes, to see if she's willing to entrust her precious daughter to me." "What kind of proposal scene are you planning? A surprise can't be revealed in advance." Ethan asked, "Is there anything you particularly want?" "I've already gotten what I want most." Victoria Harper thought seriously and said, "As long as the groom is you, anything else is fine." The two of them discussed the engagement ceremony in front of the tombstone, the preparations needed, how many invitations to write, and who to invite. As they talked, Victoria Harper also knelt, utterly devout. "Mom, I was originally planning to grow old alone. It wasn't until I met Ethan that I wanted to start a family. If one day I get tired of him." Ethan finished her sentence. "Then I'll just find a new way to love you." In their lives that had once desired nothing, the appearance of the other had made them each other's greatest craving. Nothing could be more fitting. The incense sticks burned down quickly, and the joss paper on the ground turned to ash. Ethan asked Victoria Harper, "Did Aunt Linda agree?" She agreed. She said to call her mom next time you visit. The engagement party was set for February 14th, Valentine's Day, just 5 days later. Ethan had been busy preparing. Grace Parker was already abroad and couldn't make it to the engagement party. She said that for Ethan and Victoria Harper's wedding. However, she could arrange her schedule to return, provided they notified her well in advance. When the director heard Ethan and Victoria Harper were getting engaged, he cheekily asked for an invitation, planning to go and stream the event live on Twitch to witness it. Their reality show was completely unscripted. The couples were real couples, the kind that could actually get married. People online hadn't caught wind of it yet, and as the season finale ended, the show's popularity didn't wane. The fireworks Ethan prepared and the snowfall Victoria Harper arranged both hit Twitter trends, becoming iconic scenes from the show. The trending topics were all discussing who had prepared the more romantic gesture. Amelia saw it too. Besides their romance, what also trended on Twitter was Amelia's ridiculousness. Under every video filled with their happiness, people were tagging her, asking if she regretted it. Amelia's previous accidental appearance on the production crew's Twitch stream, and her subsequent actions like eating noodles, were labeled by contemporary netizens as simp behavior. Everyone thought she was clout chasing and would eventually start her own Twitch stream to sell products. But there was no news from her from before the new year to after. Instead, someone claiming to be Benjamin Harper's caregiver started Twitch streaming. On the male caregiver's live stream, Benjamin Harper was shown drooling with a crooked mouth, soiling his bed. The male caregiver would even deliberately lift Benjamin Harper's blanket to show netizens his emaciated, skin and bones body. In the live comments, some pitted him, some mocked him. In short, everyone who tuned in was there for the spectacle. The caregiver capitalized on this to make a lot of money. Send a sports car gift, and I'll show you the former business tycoon. Want to see Benjamin Harper's diaper? Send a gift first. A carnival gift for a live clothes change. In his dreams, Benjamin Harper became a puppet, a tool to be manipulated, not only satisfying some viewers' curiosity, but also gratifying those who resented the rich. To rake in money, the caregiver showed no decency or bottom line, leaking his employer's private information to TMZ and, egged on and instigated by netizens, his actions became increasingly outrageous. The number of people in the Twitch chat surged, and viewership was high. In just 1 week, he earned what would have been 2 or 3 years of his salary. No wonder more and more people were getting into Twitch streaming these days. Amelia didn't want to make money this way, so she let him do it. He would also answer questions about Amelia, like how miserable she was now, jobless, secretly watching Ethan's videos at home, and crying her eyes out with regret. To better control Benjamin Harper, the caregiver would feed him peppermint oil capsules before each Twitch stream. Benjamin Harper didn't know, and Amelia, who was out looking for work, knew even less. This continued until Olivia Bennett stumbled upon the Twitch stream and told Amelia about it. "What right do you have to smash my phone? What's wrong with me recording a video? I'm just sharing my daily work, not bothering anyone. The platform hasn't even banned me, which means I'm not doing anything wrong. You don't want to make money yourself, and now you're stopping others from making it? How can someone like you exist? What are you acting so high and mighty for, smashing my phone like that? You're already broke as hell, no job, no money. You probably can't even pay me next month's salary. I'm telling you to make money on Twitch for your own good. If you won't think for yourself, think about your dad. This is free traffic, free money. One day's earnings can be more than several months of your salary. There's no shame in making money. You better listen to your uncle here. I've forgotten more than you'll ever know. Look at my recent income, count the digits. It's enough for your dad to stay at the Mayo Clinic. Look at your dad, then look at yourself. I'm making my money, not bothering anyone, and your dad isn't losing anything. How about this? Don't make a big deal out of it. I'll give you some money, and if you start Twitch streaming, I'll help you get traffic and give you ideas. I'm experienced with Twitch streaming now. Look, I have 200,000 followers. I can already sell merchandise. You're pretty. You can start selling today. Having money in your pocket is what's most important in life." The caregiver tried both threats and persuasion to convince Amelia, but she wouldn't listen. Not only did she smash his phone, but she also called the police to have him arrested. Reconciliation was impossible. The caregiver had violated patient privacy, which was illegal. He would not only have to compensate for the damages, but also go to jail. As the police led him away, the caregiver cursed nonstop. It serves Harper Enterprises right for ending up like this. Benjamin Harper deserves to be paralyzed. Amelia, do you still think you're some lady, Harper? Even if you were a lady, you'd be a streetwalker. Without me, no one will be willing to take care of your dad. Every time I took care of him, I felt disgusted. Shitting the bed, stinking bed sores all over his body. Amelia had no idea when Benjamin Harper had woken up. After dealing with the caregiver, she went into the bedroom and saw Benjamin Harper staring with bloodshot eyes, the corners wet with tears. Unable to move, he couldn't even wipe them away, letting them spill out and soak the pillow. Benjamin Harper had heard everything and understood. Lately, he'd been sleeping mostly during the day and was unable to sleep at night. His sleep schedule was a complete mess. He had thought it was due to his illness, but it turned out the caregiver had been giving him sleeping pills, using him as a gimmick for Twitch streaming while he slept. He didn't know what had been recorded, but he imagined it must have been humiliating. Benjamin Harper had been a proud man for decades. He knew his current state was dire, but that didn't mean he was willing to be publicly shamed online. His pride couldn't take it. To him, death was preferable. What was the point of living? A cripple, confined to bed, needing help with everything, wearing diapers at his age, dribbling food when he ate, and being a burden to Amelia. He was just a drag on her. Without him, Amelia would surely be better off. "Dad, it's okay, don't cry. It's not your fault, it's the bad guy's fault. This will never happen again, I promise. And don't worry about the online videos. Not many people know." He was paralyzed, not an idiot. If not many people knew, how could the caregiver have made so much money and gained 200,000 followers? "Why didn't you tell me?" Benjamin Harper's lips trembled, his voice muffled. "When did you quit your job?" Amelia's face stiffened. She knew she couldn't hide it anymore. So she told Benjamin Harper about her recent work situation. "I've been looking for a job lately. So, when you said you were eating well at the company, got a raise, were discussing business, and getting a year-end bonus. That was all a lie. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so useless. If I had listened to you back then and started learning at the company earlier, I wouldn't have ended up like this. It's my fault. At her age, she should have been earning money to support her father, but instead, she hadn't given Benjamin Harper a single good day. Even the current troubles at Harper Enterprises were largely her fault. If things had followed the path of that dream, after marrying Ethan, he would have joined Harper Enterprises. When Benjamin Harper fell ill, Ethan would have arranged the best team to care for him, even doing things himself, looking after not only Benjamin Harper's physical health, but also his mental well-being. She was so useless. Compared to Ethan, she was nothing. It's not your fault. I'm the one who's dragged you down, Amelia. Dad doesn't want to live anymore. Buy me a bottle of pesticide. I want to die. What's the point of living like this? I can't do anything. I'm just a cripple. Dad, I'll find a good job. This time, I'll hire a new caregiver, and we'll get you proper treatment. Benjamin Harper was trapped in a dead end, his desire to die growing stronger. He held his breath, trying to suffocate himself to death. His face went from pale to red, and finally, his eyes rolled back as he fainted from the shock. Amelia frantically called for an ambulance, used what little money she had left to pay the medical bills, and even asked Dr. Murphy to counsel Benjamin Harper. The caregiver's Twitch livestream incident had given Amelia a brief moment in the spotlight. The platform permanently banned the caregiver's account. Many netizens felt sorry for Amelia. Even those who had criticized her stopped. Some even said they would support her if she was willing to do Twitch streaming and sell products. Amelia knew all too well the backlash that came with Twitch streaming. She was struggling, yes, but she couldn't bring herself to sell her pity online, begging shamelessly like the caregiver. Even now, she clung to her dignity. What was dignity good for? Was it worth any money? Could it get her father better treatment? But if her father knew she earned money that way, he would probably be even more unwilling to accept treatment. Things took a turn. A company contacted her for an interview, offering a monthly salary reaching into 5 figures, plus commission, overtime pay, and a year-end bonus for good performance. This perfectly matched Amelia's desired salary, but it remained to be seen if her abilities met their requirements. When she went for the interview, she found out the job was as an elevator attendant at the Rosewood Grand on 5th Avenue. She was beautiful, and now somewhat famous. As the former Lady Harper, she had seen plenty of luxury goods and could help customers make choices. Moreover, the job didn't require any special skills, just standing, saying a few words when people entered the elevator, and pressing buttons. Some people asked Amelia why she didn't try Hollywood. With her looks, she could definitely give it a shot. If she got lucky, she could really make it big. But Hollywood wasn't a place one could just break into. It was a murky world with hidden dangers. When she was promoting William, she knew how messy it was. If she hadn't looked out for William, he would have been forced onto the casting couch long ago. Harper Enterprises had offended many people back in the day. If Amelia went into Hollywood, it would be like a lamb entering a tiger's den. Certain contracts could trap a person completely, stripping them of all freedom. Right now, all she wanted was to stay by her father's side, be able to go home to him every night, and have a stable schedule with regular rest. Amelia passed the interview immediately. The company gave her a uniform, even matching high heels. She was told to start on Monday, but first, she would undergo training for a couple of days to observe how others did the job. Wearing high heels, she'd have to stand for at least 7 or 8 hours a day. There were cameras in the elevator, so no fooling around and definitely no eating. She had to maintain a smile for customers entering the elevator and avoid any conflicts. Indeed, this kind of monthly salary wasn't easy to earn. It was hard to find a high-paying, safe job these days. Being an elevator attendant at the Rosewood Grand was tough, but construction workers toiling under the scorching sun were even more exhausted. No one achieves a good life without hard work and effort. Besides, Amelia didn't have many skills. This was all she could offer. The company hired her because of the value she brought. Amelia accepted. After the training, she received her uniform, put it on, and got a taste of how demanding it would be. It was an internship first, then a permanent position. If she performed well, she could become permanent and sign a contract within a month. Wearing her new uniform, Amelia went to the Mayo Clinic to tell Benjamin Harper the good news about her job. This time, she didn't hide anything from him. She first told him about her salary and benefits, then explained the job duties. Hearing that Amelia was going to be an elevator attendant at the Rosewood Grand, Benjamin Harper's eyes reddened again. Dad, this job pays well, and it's safe. There are cameras at work. Once I get paid, I'll take you to the best Green Valley Rehabilitation Center. She was no longer the heiress of Harper Enterprises. She couldn't have everything. If she wanted a high salary, she naturally had to put in the hard work and sweat. This was the best job she could find right now. One had to be content. For the past few days, while Benjamin Harper was hospitalized, Amelia had stayed with him, sleeping on a hard, makeshift bed. To prevent anyone from exploiting Benjamin Harper's situation for clout, Amelia bought a security camera and aimed it at his bed so she could monitor him at any time. With a major issue of work settled, Amelia could finally take a break and relax her mind. She hadn't dared to look at her phone these past few days. Modern phones collected so much data. Whenever she went online, her feed was full of recommendations about Ethan. He was getting engaged. Ethan was getting engaged. Amelia Harper's breath hitched, her mind going blank like a crashed computer. She stared blankly at her phone at the news about Ethan. The reality show had ended, and she'd seen the grand finale's most talked-about scene. Ethan gifting Victoria Harper a sky full of fireworks, and Victoria Harper returning the favor with a snowstorm. They had taken romance to the extreme. On confession day, they declared their feelings for each other, gone to Six Flags, and kissed at the top of the Ferris wheel. Everyone said those dating shows were scripted. Even if couples got together, they were just contract couples, drumming up hype for their CP. Once the contract ended, they'd go their separate ways. Netizens and viewers had always been skeptical. But Ethan's engagement announcement was like a slap in their faces. What reality show CP moved this fast, announcing an engagement so soon after the main broadcast ended? Ethan and Victoria Harper never flaunted their affection on social media, posting very little. Recently, they'd posted some promotional material in coordination with the production crew. Amelia Harper knew about Ethan's private account and searched for it online. Not a single post mentioned Victoria Harper by name, yet every single one was about her. 2 bowls and 2 pairs of chopsticks on a dining table, shadowy figures at candlelit dinner at the Cheesecake Factory, a bouquet of roses, making pierogi on Thanksgiving, cranberry mochi cooked on Thanksgiving morning, the Spring Festival Gala. During all those years with Ethan, they had always gone to their respective family homes for the new year. She never knew how Ethan spent the holidays with the Johnson family. She imagined it wasn't great. But this year, during Thanksgiving and the Spring Festival, days meant for family reunions, her life was a mess. No New Year's Eve feast, just a serving of vegetarian pierogi. The house was cold and empty. It was supposed to be a home for 2, but now it was deathly silent. Ethan's private account had also become quite active in recent months. Clicking on his comments, she always saw one account that was first to reply. It had to be Victoria Harper. He replied to everything. She responded to every word. They used matching couple profile pictures and looked so perfect together. Amelia Harper had thought that after all this time, seeing these things wouldn't hurt anymore. But in that moment, she realized she still couldn't let go of Ethan. Emotions were like a poison, invading her body, making her lose control of herself. How confident she used to be, thinking she held the reins. But in reality, Ethan was the one holding Bunny's string. When the string broke, Bunny lost her way. Amelia Harper forced herself to turn off her phone and go to sleep. Her eyes were closed, but her mind was wide awake. She tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. The next morning, after having breakfast with Benjamin Harper, she put on makeup, her work uniform, and went to work. The uniform was thin and didn't offer much warmth. Inside Mayo Clinic, the air conditioning kept it from feeling cold, but once outside, the chilly wind snuck down her collar. Arriving at her workplace, she shadowed a senior colleague who seemed intent on putting her through the ringer, wanting to see her endurance. As a bellman, it was inevitable to encounter difficult people, and the people who came here to shop were all wealthy and influential. Before Harper Enterprises went bankrupt, Amelia Harper used to frequent this place for both shopping and entertainment. It had everything, exclusively designed for the rich. Amelia Harper naturally knew how hard it was for those who worked here. She used to look down on elevator bellmen, and now she was one of them. Amelia Harper passed the trial and officially started as an intern on Monday. Management assigned her to the south entrance, the main entrance, which had the most foot traffic. On her first day, Amelia Harper encountered familiar faces, people she had socialized with in the past. Seeing her standing in the Rosewood Grand elevator, bowing deeply, these young socialites and scions didn't recognize her at first. Some people just loved to kiss up to the powerful and trample on the weak, deriving pleasure from others' pain. Once they recognized Amelia Harper, a few snide remarks and taunts were inevitable. Amelia Harper had seen plenty of such comments. The DMs she received daily from netizens were far nastier than what these people said. Plus, she had been undergoing stress resistance training recently. So, she didn't let their words get to her. It was just that word got around she was working as an elevator bellman here, and more people found out. Luckily, there was a strong security detail, so not just anyone could get in. But the customers who came in, upon recognizing Amelia Harper, would ask her all sorts of passive-aggressive questions. How much her salary was now, why she'd want to be an elevator bellman instead of Twitch streamer or an influencer. Some even asked if she'd consider selling her body for money. Price negotiable, daily settlement, surely more than she earned in a year. Amelia Harper ignored all these people who wanted to see her humiliated. As for those who tried to take advantage of her, she would deftly sidestep them, then smile and point to the camera above, reminding them to show some respect. Was she scared? Of course she was. Stripped of her Lady Harper title, she was just an ordinary woman. Facing these people with malicious intent, she naturally felt fear. Fortunately, the surrounding security detail and surveillance cameras allowed her to suppress her unease. Her former friends all felt that Amelia Harper had changed drastically, as if she were a different person. The old Amelia Harper was arrogant and proud. Thanks to her family background, no one dared to offend her. She was the one who looked down on others. No one dared to look down on her. If someone displeased her, she would have her security detail deal with them directly. 6 words to describe her then: petty and short-tempered. On her first day of work, Amelia Harper stood for 7 hours. Standing all day in high heels made her legs sore and feet numb, and her facial muscles were stiff from smiling. She didn't rest well that night and continued standing the next day. After standing for 3 days, Amelia Harper gradually adapted to the job. On this day, she was still standing in the right-hand corner. As the elevator doors opened, facing the light from outside, she opened her mouth. "Welco." She couldn't get the last word out because she saw Ethan standing outside the doors. "Welco." Amelia stared blankly at the man outside the elevator. She'd seen so many familiar faces here that spotting Ethan didn't even feel particularly surprising. How long had it been since she last saw him? 55 days, by her count. Less than 2 months, yet felt like an eternity. When people get lost in certain emotions, their minds tend to wander. It was as if her body had been shut inside a black box. Her vision blurred, the surrounding scenes seemed to fade, and she couldn't hear a thing, her wide eyes staring blankly into space. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, Amelia instinctively reached out her hand to block them. The sensor-activated doors brushed against her hand and slowly slid open again. Ethan, standing outside, was on the phone, his expression gentle. He clearly hadn't recognized Amelia inside the elevator. He offered her an apologetic smile and then said into his phone, "I'm getting in the elevator. I'll text you later." After hanging up, he lowered his head and stepped inside. Amelia stood rigidly in the corner of the elevator. Seeing Ethan enter, she shifted awkwardly to the side, flustered. Still, she hadn't forgotten her duties. With a composed, neither servile nor overbearing tone, she asked, "The elevator is going up. Which floor, sir?" "9th floor." Only after replying did Ethan realize the voice sounded familiar. He turned to look at the elevator operator beside him and was utterly shocked to see it was Amelia. Amelia, an elevator operator here? And she was doing a rather convincing job of it, a polite smile on her face. Only her trembling hands betrayed her inner turmoil. The 9th floor was mainly for wedding planning. It seemed the rumors weren't just rumors after all. Ethan really was going to marry Victoria Harper. Amelia's duties for the day included announcing other floors, but facing Ethan, she couldn't utter a word, as if a fishbone were stuck in her throat. As they neared the 9th floor and the elevator doors opened, she blurted out, "Are you and Victoria Harper getting engaged?" Ethan glanced at the security camera. Prying into a customer's private affairs isn't part of your job description, is it? "Ethan, do we really have to be such strangers?" Ethan could easily ignore Amelia. He wouldn't feel curious about seeing her here, nor would he resort to sarcastic remarks. Being strangers was the most dignified end for them. Ding! The elevator doors opened. Ethan walked out. Watching his retreating figure, Amelia even forgot her lines. Relationships don't shatter in an instant. A broken bond is always the result of accumulated grievances. She had realized this far too late. Amelia fought back the stinging sensation in her nose. In the few days she'd worked here, despite the hardship, she had never complained of being tired. She stood ramrod straight, maintained her smile, and always remembered to treat passengers with courtesy. She could smile through the teasing and sarcasm of acquaintances and calmly handle advances from ill-intentioned people. But seeing Ethan, she couldn't remain indifferent. She had never imagined her reunion with Ethan would be like this. She wanted to run, to find a crack to crawl into and hide. Her eyes involuntarily welled up. The elevator doors slowly closed, Ethan's figure gradually disappearing through the closing gap. She stood alone in the middle of the elevator, no longer able to hold it together. She bowed her head, tears rolling down one by one, splashing onto the floor. A moment later, she crumpled to the ground, her shoulders trembling, whimpers escaping her lips. She hadn't been crouched down for long when her walkie-talkie crackled to life. "Amelia, what do you think you're doing? It's still working hours. Why are you squatting there instead of standing properly? If you can do the job, do it. If not, then get out. You're slacking off despite your high salary. Plenty of people would kill for your job." Amelia quickly scrambled to her feet and apologized in a hoarse voice. "I'm sorry, supervisor." Her voice was clearly off, but the supervisor couldn't care less. It was a transactional relationship. The company paid her a high salary, and she was expected to do her job. If you wanted money, you had to work hard and swallow your pride, no matter who you encountered or what harsh words they threw at you. With red-rimmed eyes, Amelia continued working. As noon approached, the crowds grew, and her voice became raspy from all the announcements. Ethan hadn't come back down. He was probably still on the 9th floor, or perhaps he'd left via a different elevator. If he had known she was working as an elevator operator here, he probably wouldn't have taken this elevator at all. At 12 noon, the elevator shot straight up to the 9th floor. Every time it reached this level, she wondered if Ethan was the one who had pressed the button. After the elevator stopped on the 9th floor for the 24th time that day, Ethan reappeared, but this time Victoria Harper was by his side. Victoria Harper wore an evening gown with pearl buttons under her overcoat. Her hair was swept up with an ornamental hairpin. Compared to her past self, she seemed less icily beautiful and more gentle and warm. Standing beside Ethan, she displayed a rare girlishness. It was clear Ethan took good care of her. Her cheeks were rosy and full of color, her eyes bright and clear, sparkling with animation when she looked at him. She linked her arm through Ethan's, murmuring, "What should I do?" I loved all 3 proposals they showed us today. Is there such a thing as a fusion East meets West wedding? I want peonies for the wedding flowers. I love the Lake Como Castle wedding dress, but I also adore the traditional Chinese phoenix coronet and robes of rank. Combining them might look a bit mismatched. Ethan said, "It's a bit unconventional, but as long as you like it, that's all that matters. After all, it's our wedding ceremony, a once-in-a-lifetime event. What others say isn't important. I'm worried the photos won't turn out well. I'll think about it some more. What about you? Any thoughts on the wedding ceremony?" I only have one thought. As long as the bride is beautiful, that's all that matters. Ethan watched as the elevator doors opened. "Elevator's here. What do you want to eat? Let's go to the top floor. That Western restaurant is pretty good. If we have time this afternoon, I want to look at wedding dresses. I really can't wait to marry you." The moment the elevator doors opened, Victoria Harper saw Amelia. She didn't show the slightest hint of surprise, merely fell silent as she entered, quietly holding Ethan's hand. Amelia, steadying her trembling voice, asked, "Are you two going to the top floor for dinner?" Victoria Harper hummed in affirmation. The elevator ascended slowly. When it reached the top floor and the doors opened, Amelia held one door open with her hand, leaning forward slightly. "Top floor. Enjoy your meal." She had heard every word Victoria Harper and Ethan had said. They weren't just getting engaged, they were getting married. How normal it all was. If she hadn't impulsively run away from her own wedding back then, she and Ethan would probably be married by now, too. Amelia stood alone in the elevator, as if trapped in this very spot, unable to move forward or backward. She gazed at the 2 distant figures. The elevator felt like a confining little box, and it wasn't just her freedom that was trapped. Since he'd first declared his feelings for Victoria Harper, Ethan had given her a ring, which she'd worn constantly ever since. So, for the birthday charity ball, Ethan hadn't prepared another ring. Instead, he'd arranged for a set of jewelry, the most eye-catching piece being a stunning tiara. The birthday charity ball was a Western-style affair. Knowing Victoria Harper loved Lake Como Castle, Ethan had booked the entire coastal venue for the day. Netizens estimated that the decorations alone had cost $5 million, and that didn't even cover catering. With food and various other miscellaneous expenses added in, the estimates for those were around another $5 million. As for the proposal jewelry Ethan had prepared for Victoria Harper, he had acquired it at an auction for a staggering $300 million. His anonymous winning bid for the set had caused quite a stir, with many in Hollywood speculating about the identity of the buyer. Guests with invitations had begun to arrive. Olivia Bennett was with Victoria Harper, watching the makeup artist at work. She poured Victoria a glass of lemonade, put a straw in it, and handed it to her. It had to be said, a woman nourished by love glowed with even more beauty. Her skin was so smooth it looked poreless, her lips lovely even without lipstick. She simply radiated health and vitality. Olivia Bennett watched with envy, wishing she could be in such good shape when she reached her late 20s. "Are you nervous? Did you sleep well last night?" "Slept like a baby." Ever since she got together with Ethan, Victoria Harper hadn't suffered from insomnia again. Sleeping beside him, she never even had nightmares. Her sleep quality was excellent, her skin kept improving, and she felt energetic every day. Olivia Bennett leaned in conspiratorially and whispered, "Are you really sure about this? You two have only been together for a short while, and now you're getting engaged. Don't they say marriage is the tomb of a woman? Shouldn't you reconsider?" Victoria Harper shot her a glare. If I hadn't thought it through, wouldn't that leave an opening for you? You better behave today. No more inauspicious talk. If you can't hold your tongue, I'll have someone throw you out. Olivia Bennet clammed up instantly. I wonder how the venue setup is going, Olivia Bennet mused. Do you know? No idea. I haven't been involved. Ethan arranged everything, Victoria replied. He said he wanted it to be a surprise for me. What more surprise could there be? You two filming that show practically became an adrenaline bonding session. If the director wants to film another dating show like that, he'll have a hard time finding guests. Everyone will constantly compare them to you two. Victoria Harper was dressed simply today. Apart from the ring, she wore no other jewelry. She looked beautiful as she was, but this was an important birthday charity ball. How could she not wear any accessories? Olivia Bennet asked. Aren't you going to wear some jewelry? Victoria Harper touched her neck. Ethan didn't prepare any for me. Olivia Bennet sighed in exasperation. Men just don't understand women's makeup and fashion. Victoria Harper demurred. Never mind. Necklaces feel cold on the neck. Olivia Bennet sighed. She watched as Victoria Harper finished her hair and makeup and had just changed in her dress when there was a knock on the dressing room door. The driver had arrived to take Victoria Harper to the venue. Victoria Harper sat in the back, and Olivia Bennet tactfully took the front passenger seat. From a distance, they could already see hot air balloons, a red carpet stretching out, strewn with roses. Countless petals rained down from above, and the air was filled with the fragrance of flowers. Olivia Bennet gazed outside. Despite being a wealthy heiress who had seen her fair share of grand events, she couldn't help but gasp in admiration at the proposal scene Ethan had prepared. The multi-million-dollar setup was the epitome of luxury. If she were Victoria Harper, she would have said yes before even reaching the entrance. But she had a question. Who was footing the bill for this birthday charity ball? The Johnson family was bankrupt, leaving Ethan supposedly penniless. The money he'd earned recently was his share from the production crew, at most a couple of million. That wouldn't even cover the venue rental here, let alone the decorations and catering today, which had to be at least $5 million. Where did Ethan get that kind of money? If he used Victoria Harper's money to set up the proposal, wouldn't that cheapen the gesture a bit? Olivia Bennet wouldn't look down on Ethan for it, but she worried about those argumentative netizens online who loved to slander him. Olivia Bennet secretly took out her phone. Some pictures of the proposal venue had already been posted by people at the scene. Sure enough, just as she'd expected, the online haters were already spewing venom. They were calling Ethan a mooch and a simp, saying he couldn't even afford to rent a venue for the birthday charity ball, and that Victoria Harper was bankrolling everything. What kind of proposal surprise was that? They also brought up how Ethan had dared to criticize Christopher before, when he himself was just trying to marry into money. No, worse than that. At least those types usually had some skills or achievements. What did Ethan have? He just set off $100,000 or so in fireworks and managed to snag Victoria Harper. If they'd known it was that easy, they would have tried too. The proposal hadn't even begun, and people were already predicting its doom. Olivia Bennet clenched her phone, seething with anger as she read. Ethan, honestly, couldn't he have been a bit more low-key? With a birthday charity ball this extravagant, how would they ever top it for the wedding ceremony? A massive exhibition hall spanning thousands of square meters, a red carpet hundreds of meters long. Everyone here was an acquaintance. The director, who had played matchmaker, was seated at the main table. Surrounding music and balloons fluttering in the breeze guided her forward. The moment Victoria Harper stepped out of the car, she felt an intense gaze upon her. She looked up and met Ethan's focused, ardent stare. Their eyes met, and they both broke into smiles simultaneously. It always felt as if they had known each other for a very, very long time, across different timelines, in separate parallel universes. Her 15-year-old self had traveled 12 years into the future. She knew she was destined to marry Ethan in this life. If she couldn't, her life would only be one of solitude. Fortunately, fate had been kind to her. There was no butterfly effect to disrupt things. Love had formed a perfect, closed loop. Though it was only a walk of a few minutes, Ethan, dressed in a white suit, couldn't stop himself from running to her. He handed Victoria Harper the peonies he was holding, and, as she took them, he swept her up into his arms. To outsiders, Ethan appeared calm and collected. He had orchestrated today's birthday charity ball perfectly. In such a setting, he should have been confident, completely at ease. But only Victoria Harper knew how badly his hands were trembling. It was just an engagement, yet his eyes were already red. She heard Ethan's choked voice in her ear. I'm so happy. I'm truly so happy. Victoria Harper couldn't help but wonder if her 15-year-old self hadn't met the future Ethan ahead of time. What would her fate have been? Perhaps incapable of loving, she might have already perished. As dusk turned to night, there were no stars visible in the sky this season. But Ethan had arranged for drones, thousands upon thousands of them, emitting colorful lights, creating what looked like a Milky Way, paving a road to happiness. Gasps of admiration continuously rippled through the crowd. Spotlights focused on the couple. The director had another role today, MC. He stood on stage, delivering some enthusiastic opening remarks, and then handed the microphone to Ethan. Ethan looked at Victoria Harper. 5 seconds, 10 seconds passed. The audience was completely silent. Ethan held the microphone in one hand and Victoria Harper's hand in the other, his gaze fixed on her, unwavering. He said, word by word, waiting for today. It truly hasn't been easy. I'm not a man of many words, but I love you. I could say it to you every day and never get tired of it. Every day, I think about how to treat you well, how to be even better to you. When will you say yes to my proposal, wear that wedding dress, put on that ring, and be my wife? When it comes to getting married, I'm even more excited than you are. I even dreamed about it last night. Many in the crowd were visibly moved by Ethan's words. Olivia Bennet stood on the stage, hands covering her mouth, eyes wide, fighting back tears. Finding you, it felt like I'd been walking alone in a blizzard for a very, very long time. And then, I finally found my way home. Ethan continued. Thank you for suddenly appearing in my life, illuminating my world with a ray of light. You said marriage is the tomb of love? Then I'm willing to plant flowers all over that tomb, so that even on the day we're buried together, roses will still be there to say I love you for me. Victoria felt like her heart was about to melt. More than any sweet nothings Ethan could say, she preferred to show her feelings through actions. So, under the watchful eyes of everyone present, she hooked an arm around Ethan's neck and pulled him in for a forceful kiss. The crowd below erupted in cheers, which eventually turned into thunderous applause, celebrating their love. Many people didn't understand what Ethan meant by it hasn't been easy. To outsiders, he and Victoria had been together for less than half a year. Could such deep feelings truly develop in just 2 or 3 short months? Relationships were like boiling water. You heat cold water to a boil, then turn off the flame. As time goes on, the hot water slowly cools. They were still in the honeymoon phase. Once that passed, would they last until marriage? Their lips parted, and Victoria said, Ethan, this is the best betrothal gift I've ever received. Her greatest skill in this life was successfully winning over the person she liked. Victoria clutched the flowers in her hands, her gaze on Ethan growing hazy, her cheeks flushed crimson. Just as everyone was anticipating Ethan to kneel and propose, he instead swept Victoria into his arms and ran towards a hot air balloon. They climbed in. The director on stage and the guests below were dumbfounded, all rising to their feet and looking up. They had assumed the hot air balloon was just a decoration, never imagining it would actually fly. Watching the couple ascend in the balloon and disappear from sight, it inexplicably gave off the vibe of a shotgun wedding, which couldn't help but remind people of the previous protagonist, Amelia. Why did you bring me up here? To show you the stars. What stars could there be in this weather? Before she could finish, she heard a buzzing sound from above. Tens of thousands of drones, adorned with lights, flew towards them. They formed a castle by the edge of a Milky Way, then slowly shaped into 2 human figures. The drone show depicted their journey of meeting and falling in love, from school uniforms to a wedding ceremony. As the image of a ring slid onto a finger, Ethan opened a box. Inside was the jewelry set he had recently acquired at auction for $300 million. He adorned Victoria's neck and wrists with the jewels, and finally placed the tiara on her head. Victoria happened to have her hair in a princess style today, and the tiara fit perfectly. The jewels sparkled brilliantly under the lights. Yet, no matter how beautiful, they were mere accessories on Victoria. The drones converged and scattered, circling them like shooting stars. Ethan draped a cloak over Victoria's shoulders. All this romance I've been saving up, I can finally give it to you today, Ms. Harper. Are you satisfied? So far, the thing I'm most proud to show off in my entire life is this proposal you prepared tonight. Victoria leaned in and kissed him again, then whispered in his ear, Actually, the moment you ran towards me with those flowers that already surpassed all sweet nothings, Mr. Johnson, I love you. Congratulations on your promotion from boyfriend to fiancé tonight. Tell us how you feel. She gave a mischievous smile, holding her bouquet to his lips like a microphone. Ethan played along, acting as if he were on the grandest stage accepting an award. He stood tall, chest out, eyes gazing into the distance. He cleared his throat, his tone serious and earnest. Thank you, Yin Yin, for giving me this opportunity to become your fiancé. I will continue to strive and work hard to enter the ranks of husband. And here I make a vow. Ethan suddenly looked into Victoria's eyes. I will absolutely treat you well. Whatever you say goes. Whatever game you want to play, I'll play it with you. I will give you respect and freedom. I won't let marriage become a tomb that imprisons you. With me, you will always be the leading lady, free to do whatever you want. I support your career. I will trust you unconditionally, accompany you, cherish you, and take care of you. You have your independence, and I have my own strength. To be a husband worthy of you, I will work even harder, push myself to the limit. If I fail, then I'm a dog. At his last sentence, Victoria couldn't help but laugh. Working hard is enough. Don't push yourself to the limit. If you dare to push yourself that hard, I'll chain you up at home and make you my personal simp. Actually, I don't ask for much. Simple companionship, unconditional trust, and visible affection. I just wanted to prove that I am worthy of you, of the best kind of love. You already have. Sunset and evening breeze, day after day, night after night. The wind tousled Victoria's hair. Ethan held her tighter. Are you cold? I'm okay. That means you're cold. Let's go down. They had enjoyed the drone show up close, a dazzling spectacle. Just as Ethan was preparing to lower the hot air balloon, Victoria leaned over the edge and exclaimed, Ethan, look, there's a star in the sky, a really bright one. What was so special about a star? But stars weren't supposed to be visible in this weather, and a single star in the sky was indeed rare. Ethan almost thought Victoria had mistaken a distant drone for a star. Nevertheless, he followed her pointing finger, and sure enough, where the clouds had parted, a very bright star had appeared. Ethan, when people die, they become stars. No matter how lonely someone is, they'll have company after death. Grandma, I miss you. Ethan's eyes stung. A few days ago, he had taken Victoria to visit his grandmother's grave. Kneeling in burning joss paper, he had told the headstone he hoped Grandma could witness his and Victoria's philanthropic gala. How could the dead witness anything? It was just a way to comfort himself. Seeing that lone star tonight, he couldn't help but wonder, could it be Grandma? She hadn't left him. She had merely transformed into a star in the sky, continuing to watch over him. After Ethan and Victoria descended from the hot air balloon, spotlights fell upon them, illuminating their path. The jewelry on Victoria was dazzling. There was no need for a formal introduction. Everyone present instantly recognized it as the $300 million set that had been anonymously auctioned off recently. Worn by Victoria, it perfectly embodied the jewelry's tagline, "My eyes see only you. A billion stars can't compare to you." Victoria Harper was stunningly beautiful. As she descended from the hot air balloon, all eyes were first drawn to her face, then scanned the crown on her head, the necklace around her neck. The attendees of this philanthropic gala were all rich and influential, accustomed to grand spectacles, and could tell at a glance whether the jewelry set was real and its immense value. Isn't that the $300 million jewelry set from the auction a while ago? Why is Victoria Harper wearing it? Was the mysterious buyer Victoria Harper herself? Buying jewelry for herself, and then going to all the trouble of wearing it on a hot air balloon? It must have been Ethan Johnson who bought it in Victoria Harper's name. At this point, no one even considered that Ethan Johnson had bought it as a gift for Victoria Harper. To most, Ethan Johnson was just Victoria Harper's kept simp, jobless, and without an income. He couldn't possibly afford to buy a $300 million jewelry set for her. The only explanation was that Ethan Johnson had used Victoria Harper's money to buy the set, and then gifted it back to her. Casually spending $300 million like that. People online were starting to get jealous again. Just as they were about to start flaming online, someone said, "But I heard a rumor that the person who acquired this jewelry set at the auction was Mr. Yen, that mysterious Mr. Yen who's been in the news lately. Is that just gossip? I was at the auction that day. I inquired with the organizers, and it was indeed Mr. Yen. But why would jewelry auction by Mr. Yen be in Ethan Johnson's hands? Does Ethan Johnson know Mr. Yen? Or does Mr. Yen know Victoria Harper? Don't tell me this Mr. Yen is another one of Victoria Harper's aliases. Could it be that Mr. Yen is Ethan Johnson?" As soon as this was said, the surroundings fell silent. After a long pause, someone let out an awkward laugh. "Are you kidding? How could Ethan Johnson be Mr. Yen? If he really were Mr. Yen and had such capabilities, Harper Enterprises would have clung to him for dear life. Why would Amelia Harper have jilted him at the philanthropic gala for William Hayes? Haven't you noticed? This Mr. Yen only started appearing after Ethan Johnson's engagement was broken off. Who had ever heard of him before? Maybe Ethan Johnson was hiding his true strength. What strength could Ethan Johnson possibly hide? Before this, he was utterly unremarkable, a victim of domestic violence, brainwashed by his lunatic parents, cyberbullied. He could barely protect himself. So how could he possibly do all this? And does he even have money? He left the Johnson family penniless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have resorted to filming a reality show to earn money. And let's talk about Mr. Yan's capabilities. They're unfathomable. In these past few months, he's been making money like a gold magnet. Without considerable experience and power, how could he consistently profit without losses? In my opinion, this Mr. Yan must be at least 50. He's already a top-tier tycoon, and Mr. Yan is just one of his aliases. This reasoning was so sound, it was hard not to believe. Who could imagine that a man once considered worthless could become a multi-billionaire overnight? If Ethan Johnson could achieve that so easily, it would make them all look incompetent. But in the next second, they all had to eat their words. The identity of this Mr. Yan was leaked to TMZ online. He was none other than Ethan Johnson's alias. People at the event pulled out their phones, saw the shocking news, and nearly dropped them. Suddenly, Ethan Johnson on stage seemed to radiate a brilliant light, like gold, his aura dominating the entire venue with an overwhelming presence. This was the power of wealth. Forget down to earth, he was down to billions. Director Miller, who was closest to Ethan Johnson, rubbed his eyes in disbelief after seeing the news. He kept looking back and forth at Ethan Johnson, struggling to connect him with Mr. Yan. Ethan Johnson, are you Mr. Yan? The stock market guru who suddenly appeared recently. Ethan Johnson had sensed something off about the atmosphere from start. Hearing Director Miller's question, he suddenly realized the online expose must have been published. I am. The venue remained silent. Director Miller pressed, for real? Why would I lie to you? With so many people watching, if I lied, it would be spreading rumors, which is illegal. With this change in identity, Ethan Johnson instantly seemed to possess an extraordinary, almost unattainable aura. Director Miller now desperately wanted to get on his good side. Who is this Mr. Yan? He started by playing the real estate market, then, with his exceptional foresight, moved into stocks and investments. His initial $100 million in startup capital skyrocketed under his management, living up to his nickname, a veritable money-making machine. Every industry he touched turned to gold. In just a few short months, he achieved feats no one could surpass. Anyone who saw it had to admit he was incredible. And this man, practically an entrepreneurial legend, was actually Ethan Johnson, a 24-year-old. So, the renowned Mr. Yan was you all along. Everyone had mixed feelings. They had assumed Ethan Johnson got ahead on looks alone, but it turned out he had real power too. Who would dare say now that Victoria Harper and Ethan Johnson weren't a match? In terms of both looks and capabilities, they were a perfect match, a power couple, an unbeatable pair. First, there was Victoria Harper, who single-handedly founded the Yan Group, and now Ethan Johnson, whose net worth had grown to over $1.5 billion in 3 months. And his potential was far from exhausted. If he continued like this, it was believed he could catch up to Victoria Harper within 2 years. Those who had been whispering disdainfully about Ethan Johnson just moments ago now hung their heads. How to describe their current feelings? Ashamed? Mortified? Wishing the earth would swallow them whole. Among them, Olivia Bennett's expression was the most telling. She remembered asking Ethan Johnson not long ago if he felt insecure or out of his depth being with Victoria Harper. The irony was that, in her arrogance, she too had believed Ethan Johnson wasn't good enough for Victoria Harper. Ethan Johnson had no intention of letting his engagement ceremony turn into a business networking event. He stated directly from the stage, "No shop talk today." That single sentence immediately discouraged the eager businessmen from trying to curry favor. Tonight at Rosewood Island Lake Como Castle, neither the engagement banquet's lavish decorations, nor the five-star cuisine from the Rosewood Grand Hotel, nor the drone show. Nothing compared to the explosive impact of Ethan Johnson's identity reveal. One story after another hit Twitter trends. Even the trending hashtag changed to a simple and clear. Hashtag mysterious Mr. Yin and Yang boss engagement. Unsuspecting netizens who clicked on it saw photos of Ethan Johnson and Victoria Harper. All over Rosewood City, properties owned by the couple switched their large screens to display photos of them in support of their boss's engagement. Grace Parker, far away abroad, saw it. Aunt Margaret Johnson, confined in the Springfield Mental Health Center, heard about it. Even Richard Johnson, Victor Harper, and William Hayes, locked up in Springfield Correctional Facility, learned the news. They couldn't believe Ethan Johnson possessed such power, yet the truth was laid bare before their eyes. Ethan Johnson had intentionally leaked his identity. He wanted to use this important occasion to show everyone that his capabilities were more than worthy of Victoria Harper's choice. Now, no one would ever again gossip behind their backs, saying Victoria Harper had poor taste for choosing a simp as her husband. Ethan's proposal to Victoria Harper hitting #1 on Twitter trends was a testament to how a single change in status could transform public perception from widespread disapproval to complete acceptance. Those who had once looked down on him were now desperate to be in his orbit. Everyone was waiting for the banquet to end so they could rush over to Ethan, hoping to get some FaceTime, or better yet, add him as a contact. Then, any future investment questions could be directed his way. The engagement party buzzed with excitement. Beneath the calm surface, undercurrents churned as guests subtly vied for attention, scheming what to say to catch Ethan and Victoria Harper's notice when they came around for toasts. Paparazzi, tipped off about the event, swarmed the venue, some climbing trees, others hiding in bushes, a few even scaling walls, all desperate to be the first to interview him or snap a clear shot of his face. But no one anticipated that, after Ethan led Victoria Harper inside to change, they wouldn't reappear. Just as the crowd began to wonder why Ethan was taking so long, someone shouted, "Look, the drones in the sky." Sure enough, drones in the sky slowly formed words. "Enjoy the party, everyone. We're heading out." Huh? After a few seconds of stunned silence, some faces stiffened, others sighed in admiration, but most broke into laughter and applause. The loudest laughter came from the director, who was ecstatic, congratulating himself on creating the show and, more importantly, getting Ethan as a guest. It was a goldmine, an absolute goldmine. The manager of the Rosewood Grand Hotel stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand. Rosewood Island offers a wide array of entertainment. Please eat, drink, and enjoy yourselves tonight. For the next 3 days, 72 hours, Ms. Johnson has booked everything and is covering all expenses. The crowd erupted in cheers, all except for Olivia Bennett, who sat quietly in a corner. Olivia tilted her head back, watching the drones, her face an icy mask. She reached up to touch her cheek and was shocked to find it wet with tears. How could she cry at such a joyous occasion? She was, after all, a witness to Ethan and Victoria Harper's love story, having seen its entirety unfold. She'd seen Ethan's singular devotion to Victoria, the flowers he sent her, which Victoria placed in every corner of Oak Ridge Retreat, the maple syrup pancakes he cooked when her stomach ached, and the ginger-infused creme brulee. During a camping trip, Ethan had carried Victoria up a steep slope. Only with Victoria was he ever so ardent. Only for her did he blush or his gaze falter. Olivia had known all along that Ethan and Victoria would reach this day. From engagement to marriage. How many more days until her heart could finally feel numb? She too longed for such a proposal, for a spectacle of thousands of drones, for a hot air balloon ride overlooking the city at night, for a romantic Lake Como castle, for gardens overflowing with peonies. Olivia silently wiped away her tears, her hand clutching her chest. Why did humans have to experience jealousy? And where had Ethan gone? After changing, Ethan had whisked Victoria Harper into a car and headed straight for the airport. Victoria still had no idea what was about to happen, but she had a vague premonition that a huge surprise awaited her. She feigned confusion, asking, "Where are we going?" "Home. There's still so many people waiting for us at the party. It's not very good to just leave like this, is it?" Victoria disliked mingling in large crowds. Ethan squeezed her hand, their fingers intertwining. "Don't worry. I've already arranged everything with the hotel manager. We can go wherever we want now, without having to worry about anyone else." "Then where are we going?" "Where do you want to go?" "Anywhere is fine, as long as I'm with you." Noticing the road signs, Victoria ventured, "Are we going to the airport?" "MHM, for our honeymoon." The surprise was a bit overwhelming. She was completely unprepared. Seeing the mischievous smile on Ethan's lips, Victoria knew he had planned this all along. Ethan said, "I've already taken care of work, and our luggage is in the car. Are you willing to come with me now?" Victoria replied, "I'm with you all the way." Victoria still didn't know their destination until she saw the plane tickets. Ireland. Ireland, a country where divorce was said to be forbidden. They boarded a direct flight. It was clear Ethan had prepared meticulously. Upon arrival, he had accommodations sorted and communicated effortlessly with local officials. They stayed at a magnificent castle in Bear, reminiscent of those on Lake Como. There, they obtained a civil marriage registration, and with local officials as witnesses, Ethan kissed his Victoria Harper. From that day forward, she was his wife. As the kiss ended, Ethan leaned close to Victoria's flushed ear and whispered, "Te mein Gralit." When he decided they would go to Ireland to get married, Ethan had started learning the local language. The very first phrase he mastered was, "I love you." He finally understood the words Victoria had whispered in his ear on the night of her birthday, the words that had kept him awake, tossing and turning. It had been her confession, "Te mein gra liet." Later that evening, at 9:14 p.m. on Valentine's Day, Amelia Harper was in the break room. As her alarm went off, she immediately got up, straightened her clothes, slipped on her high heels, and went out to start her shift. The moment she stepped out, she saw Ethan and Victoria Harper's engagement photo displayed on a massive screen, a Twitch live stream of the drone show playing. A large crowd stood beneath it, all looking up. That must have cost a fortune. Do rich people always have to make such a huge deal out of an engagement? Imagine how extravagant the wedding will be. That must be millions, right? It reminds me of Ethan's previous engagement party with Harper Enterprises. Hey, I was thinking the same thing. Ethan could have thrown 3 of those parties with what this one cost. Amelia Harper must be regretting it so much now, right? Who would have thought that Ethan, the man she belittled as worthless, is actually Mr. Yen? If Amelia hadn't run away from the marriage, this wedding of the century would have been hers. With Ethan around, Harper Enterprises wouldn't have gone bankrupt, and Benjamin Harper wouldn't be paralyzed and critically ill. One is a billionaire investor, the other a bellhop earning a little over $10,000 a month. Their statuses are worlds apart. The only place they might cross paths is in this cramped rosewood grand elevator. Amelia had tried to ignore the chatter, but every word reached her ears clearly. Her steps faltered. She froze. Ethan was the mysterious Mr. Yen? How could that be possible? Her walkie-talkie crackled, summoning her to the elevator for a shift. Amelia, too flustered to think, hurried over in her high heels. She kept her head down, shrinking into a corner. Without her phone, she couldn't verify the news, and a sense of panic set in. She was distracted during her shift, making several mistakes. Her feet ached, her calves throbbed. Amelia secretly leaned against the wall to alleviate some of the pressure. Tonight, Valentine's Day, many wealthy patrons were heading upstairs. The clientele here was exclusively rich and influential. And today, Twitter trends were all about Ethan. Everyone was discussing how wonderful he was, how he'd gifted Victoria Harper $300 million worth of jewelry, how he'd personally arranged the engagement party, a man who had taken romance to its absolute extreme. Before this, many had said Ethan wasn't good enough for Victoria Harper, that he was just a pretty boy. After tonight, everyone had changed their tune, saying Victoria Harper had found a great man. As for Amelia Harper, who had once abandoned Ethan, she was now seen as someone who'd thrown away gold only to pick up a radioactive stone, not just worthless, but lethal. A gaping hole seemed to tear open in Amelia's chest, an icy wind pouring in, threatening to freeze her organs. Amelia clutched her heart, gasping for air when the elevator was empty, cold sweat dripping from her forehead. Her walkie-talkie crackled again. Amelia straightened up reflexively. A voice came through. "Amelia Harper, isn't your father at the Mayo Clinic?" "The Mayo Clinic just called. They said something happened to your father. He's in the intensive care unit. You need to get over there immediately." Amelia, still in her work uniform, jumped into a cab to Mayo Clinic and rushed upstairs. She twisted her ankle on the way but barely felt the pain, limping into the clinic to once again sign a critical condition notice. She couldn't understand it. Her father had seemed fine just that morning, so why was he suddenly in the emergency room? She had a new job. She had money now. She could slowly pay for her father's treatment. These past few days, Benjamin Harper's condition had been improving daily. He was actively cooperating with treatment, patiently listening to Dr. Murphy. Things were finally looking up. Why had it turned out like this? Amelia couldn't make sense of it, no matter how hard she tried. She asked the caregiver, who recounted the day's events from beginning to end. The doctor said Benjamin Harper had vomited blood due to severe emotional distress, triggered by accidentally overhearing someone mention that today was Ethan and Victoria Harper's wedding ceremony. Benjamin Harper had been stabilized, but he was extremely weak. His life force felt as tenuous as a silken thread about to snap. Mayo Clinic presented Amelia with the bill for the surgery. Benjamin Harper needed another operation, and the cost was astronomical. She simply didn't have that kind of money. Who could she borrow from? Amelia's hand trembled as she called Olivia Bennett, but there was no answer. She tried Victoria Harper and Ethan, but their phones were also unreachable. Desperate to raise the money, Amelia took out her phone and contacted everyone she could think of. Some answered, only to hang up the moment she mentioned borrowing money. Others, before hanging up, told her the truth. "Amelia, do you know who Ethan is now? Helping you means offending him. I can't afford to do that. Not to mention Victoria Harper still holds a grudge. It wasn't that they were unwilling to help, but they were afraid of offending Ethan and Victoria Harper. Did that mean if Ethan just gave the word, these people would help her? A flicker of hope rekindled in Amelia. She decided to find Ethan. She took a cab to the venue of their philanthropic gala. It was dawn when she arrived. The site hadn't been cleared yet, and there were still many people around. She was stopped at the entrance because she didn't have an invitation. Amelia kept calling Ethan, then Victoria Harper. She stood there until her legs ached, eventually sinking to the ground, until the director walked out. Finally seeing a familiar face, Amelia stumbled over to him. "Director." Hearing someone call him, the director stopped. Seeing it was Amelia, he asked, puzzled, "Amelia, what are you doing here?" "I'm looking for Ethan. It's their wedding ceremony, a joyous occasion. What are you, his ex, doing here?" "It's not appropriate," the director thought to himself, already pegging Amelia as a troublemaker. "Director, I can't reach him. Can you help me contact him? Ethan isn't inside. Wasn't last night his engagement party? How could he not be here?" Amelia thought the director was trying to prevent her from seeing Ethan. She explained, "Director, Benjamin Harper is in critical condition. He needs surgery, and we need to book a specialist. Because of Ethan, no one dares to help me now. I just want him to say something to let my dad get through this. Please believe me. I'm telling the truth. I'm absolutely not here to cause trouble." The director looked at Amelia, her eyes red with anxiety, her voice trembling. It was clear she wasn't lying. But the director sighed. "Ethan and Victoria Harper really aren't here. They left last night. They're on a plane by now. They went abroad for their honeymoon. How could they?" Amelia's eyes were vacant, her body threatening to collapse. The director felt a pang of sympathy, wanting to help her. "How much is the surgery?" Amelia's voice choked with tears. "We need to raise at least $90,000. Besides the surgery fee, the main issue is the specialist from abroad. I don't have the connections to book him. Only Victoria Harper and Ethan can help me. Director, my dad is still in the emergency room. His life is hanging by a thread. He's all I have left. I'm so scared he'll leave me. I want to save him. Please, I'm begging you, help me." As she spoke, she was about to kneel, but the director quickly grabbed her arm. "Kneeling before me won't help. Amelia, it's not that I don't want to help you, but I can't get you an appointment with that specialist either. I can only try my best to ask around for you, but I don't know how long it will take." Amelia looked at him. As long as someone was still willing to help, there was hope. Then the director added, "Even if I manage to get you the doctor, what about the surgery fee? Have you thought about that?" Amelia stared with misty eyes. $90,000 for surgery. How long would it take to earn that? Amelia's salary was high now, but so were her expenses. Would she have to lower her future living standards to focus on repaying debt? And another stark reality. Even if they saved Benjamin Harper this time, given his frail condition, how long could he hold on? What if he fell ill again? The director posed an incredibly practical question. It's just to keep him alive, to sustain his life, not to make him recover. As a paralyzed man, is spending so much worth it? Amelia's eyes grew redder, her voice tinged with a sob. "But he's my father. When I was sick as a child, he was always there for me." "Amelia, have you ever asked your father if he even wants to live?" Amelia seemed not to have considered it. She just wanted her father to live. He was her only family in this world, the person she cared about most. If even he abandoned her, she didn't know what meaning her life would have. Benjamin Harper was, in a way, her reason for carrying on. While they say it's better to eke out an existence than to die well, people surely want to live healthily and happily. Your father has been a proud man most of his life. Now he's bedridden, unable to move, needing help with basic bodily functions. Not long ago, his privacy was even leaked to TMZ. Do you think he's happy living like this? If it were me, I'd at least ask him what he wants. Amelia stood in the cold wind, feeling chilled to the bone. Ethan had decorated this place beautifully, the enchanting Lake Como Castle, while she felt like an out-of-place mouse that had scurried in by mistake. The Amelia of the past never believed in so-called karma or the saying, "What goes around comes around." Now, reality stared her in the face, forcing her to believe. The wrongs you commit against someone, the bad things you do, will one day rebound on you. Many things eventually come full circle. The bullet from last summer had finally, metaphorically, struck her between the eyes. Amelia returned to Mayo Clinic in a daze. She began to ask the doctor detailed questions about the post-surgery prognosis and the success rate. The success rate wasn't high, and Benjamin Harper wouldn't be much better off than he was now even after the surgery. But if they gave up treatment, he definitely wouldn't last a week. Doctors heal the sick and save the dying, but they couldn't save someone who had lost the will to live. Benjamin Harper's spirits were low. He only put on a brave face for Amelia. In truth, he'd lost the will to live long ago. Benjamin Harper awoke. He was weak, wearing an oxygen tube. It took a great effort for him to open his eyelids. When he did, he saw Amelia. Benjamin Harper's face was ashen, his lips drained of all color. He twitched his fingertips, wanting to take Amelia's hand. Amelia saw it and immediately grasped his. "Dad!" Benjamin Harper desperately wanted to say something, but he had no strength. Even a simple sentence required immense effort. His lips trembled as he slowly spoke. "Amelia, Dad is in so much pain, so tired. I don't want to live anymore. I know my own body. Living is just a burden. Give up on the treatment. Let me go peacefully. I miss your mother." Even on his deathbed, Benjamin Harper still yearned for his deceased wife. But he never knew his wife had betrayed him long ago, dying on her way to a tryst with her lover. A burning hatred for the woman ignited within Amelia. Why did she have to betray Benjamin Harper? Why abandon her? Their family had treated her so well. Why choose a mere driver? Her death might have been a clean break for her, but it condemned Benjamin Harper to years of suffering. She deserved to die, but even more, she deserved a life worse than death. If only he'd known the truth about that woman before he fell ill, he wouldn't have clung to her memory, living in a beautiful lie. Tears streamed down Amelia's face at these thoughts. Helpless, she knelt, resting her head on the hospital bed, placing Benjamin Harper's hand on her head, just like when she was a child. Benjamin Harper's fingertips twitched. "Amelia, Daddy's tired. I want to rest. The treatments hurt so much, and the medicine is so bitter. I don't want to go on like this. I don't want to reach the end not remembering anyone. I want to remember your mother, and then go find her." Amelia sobbed, her shoulders shaking. Wiping away her tears, she forced a smile. "Okay, Dad, we'll stop the treatments." Benjamin Harper managed a faint, pained smile. When death is near, one can feel it, an overwhelming exhaustion, a deep desire to sleep. After ceasing treatment, Benjamin Harper spent most of his time asleep. Then one day, he suddenly seemed more lucid, more energetic, and he spoke at length with Amelia. He said he wanted to be cleaned up, to wear something nice, a suit and a bow tie. Amelia brought a suit Benjamin Harper had worn before. The tailored suit now hung loosely on his emaciated frame, wrinkled. Amelia helped him change, tied his tie, and neatened his hair. Seeing his pallor, Amelia asked, "Dad, would you like me to put some makeup on you?" "What man wears makeup? Let me see the mirror." Since Benjamin Harper had become paralyzed, he hadn't been allowed to see a mirror. Before his illness, he had been a distinguished man. With a daughter as beautiful as Amelia, his own genes were clearly strong. Even in his 40s and 50s, he was a handsome man. Now, illness had ravaged him. His muscles were gone, his skin sagged, pale and marked with white patches. His facial bones protruded, his cheeks hollowed. His hair was completely white and sparse. At Benjamin Harper's insistence, Amelia handed him the mirror. Benjamin Harper looked at his reflection. "Almost didn't recognize myself. It's fine." It was a beautiful day, the sun shining brightly outside. Benjamin Harper wanted to go out and feel the sun, but completely paralyzed, he couldn't move, couldn't even sit in a wheelchair. Looking at Amelia, he spoke with great difficulty, word by word. "Don't hold grudges against anyone. Be happy. Daddy can't be with you anymore. Take care of yourself. Eat well, sleep on time. This life, I've been a burden to you." "No, you haven't. It was me who harmed you." Benjamin Harper gazed towards the window. "I want to feel the sun. I'll open the curtains." Opening the curtains would let the sunlight stream in. Amelia quickly got up to do so. With a rustle, the curtains parted, and a brilliant ray of sunlight flooded the room, falling directly onto Benjamin Harper's face. "Dad, can you feel the sun?" Amelia turned back, only to see Benjamin Harper's eyes closed. Beep! The heart monitor emitted a piercing shriek. The wavering line flatlined. Benjamin Harper died in his 50th year. Did he feel the sun in his final moment? No one knew. "Ms. Harper, my condolences." Amelia seemed not to hear. She reached out, stroking Benjamin Harper's white hair. "Dad, I can take you out to feel the sun now." She took the white sheet from the medical staff and gently covered Benjamin Harper. Without hesitation, upon confirming his death, she contacted the crematorium. Throughout the entire process, Amelia acted methodically, her face betraying no grief. She didn't even shed a tear. Only after Benjamin Harper's death did Amelia learn the true reason for his sudden decline. It wasn't because of Ethan and Victoria Harper's marriage, but because he discovered that Ethan was Mr. Yin, the very same Mr. Yin who had first inflated the real estate market and then shorted it, playing a significant role in the bankruptcy of Harper Enterprises. Afterwards, as Harper Enterprises sold off its assets, many of them fell into his hands. How could Benjamin Harper not be devastated upon learning Ethan was Mr. Yen? If he had known Ethan possessed such capabilities, he wouldn't have made so many blunders trying to manipulate or appease him, only to thoroughly alienate him. Victoria Harper alone had been more than he could handle. He never imagined Ethan also possessed such ruthlessness and skill. No wonder he had been so utterly defeated. In the 2 days since Benjamin Harper's death, there was barely a mention of him. The internet, however, was flooded with news about Ethan and Victoria Harper registering their marriage. Clutching the urn, Amelia stared blankly at her phone screen, fingers rapidly scrolling through the live comments, her eyes turning bloodshot as she read the well wishes for the couple. They went to Ireland to get married? I hear you can't get divorced there. So romantic for people in love to have their wedding ceremony there. Ethan's identity got leaked to TMZ. So many people were after him, and what does he do? Skips town overnight with his fiancée to get married abroad. The newlyweds on their honeymoon, showing off their love, so blissful, wishing them eternal happiness. My first time shipping a CP, and they actually got married. Lu Zhuang's CP for the win. Little Mr. Johnson, you better take good care of Sister Yen from now on. Wishing the loving couple a long and happy life together, until their hair turns white. No wedding ceremony, no Greenwood Memorial Park. Amelia placed Benjamin Harper's ashes in her Brooklyn loft. At first, it felt strange. She would often call out Dad, looking at the bed he used to sleep in, the blanket he used, the basin he used. His presence permeated every aspect of her life. When she started to miss him, Amelia would look at the photos and videos saved on her phone. Her father, who used to carry her on his shoulders when she was little, such a big man, now reduced to a box of ashes. Most belongings of the deceased are usually burned, but Amelia couldn't bear to burn his things, keeping them as they were. Her week of leave passed quickly. Amelia returned to work, standing in the elevator at the Rosewood Grand, a stiff smile plastered on her face, her movements like a machine. She pretended not to hear malicious taunts from others. After a busy day, she would go home and cook. One day, she accidentally made too much. She ladled a bowl of scalding soup and, out of habit, carried it towards the bedroom. Only when she reached the doorway did she realize there was no one inside. Her dad was gone. The soup bowl slipped from her hand and crashed to the floor, its contents splattering everywhere. She stared blankly at the mess, taking a small step back. After a long moment, she crouched down to pick up the pieces, tears streaming down her face as she did. She raised her arm to wipe her face. Her heart, numb for so long, finally began to ache. The pain started as a dull, persistent throb, then intensified into an agony so overwhelming it felt like it could drive her mad, like suffocation. Amelia broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, her grief at this moment as pure and real as that of a child a couple years younger. Ethan's joyous occasion, her time of mourning. Benjamin Harper had told Amelia not to hold grudges. Perhaps he had foreseen this day. Humans experience joy, anger, sorrow, and resentment. How could she not feel resentment? But more than she resented Ethan's heartlessness, she hated herself. Sorry is not a word that can fix everything. A terrible price must be paid. For example, in a past life, Ethan died at 55 because of them. And in this life, they having wronged Ethan ended up dead, disabled, or ruined, reduced to nothing. This was the fate they deserved. 3 months after their return from traveling the world, Ethan and Victoria Harper, both a little tanner, were back home, balancing work with wedding ceremony preparations. In June, Ethan and Victoria Harper had their wedding photos taken. In July, Ethan accompanied Victoria Harper for her wedding dress fitting. In August, Ethan video called Grace Parker, who was away filming in Hollywood, to inform her of the wedding ceremony date. By September, the wedding venue was booked, and the couple prepared wedding favors and invitations together. October marked Ethan and Victoria Harper's grand wedding. Victoria Harper, in a silver wedding gown, walked towards Ethan. She looked like a celestial fairy treading on starlight, outshining even the sun outside. The moment she saw Ethan, she raised an eyebrow, a smile she couldn't hide playing on her lips. Witnessed by all their guests, and amidst the solemn words of Pastor Smith, Ethan clutched his heart and vowed, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, I will love you. Not even death can do us part. Don't worry about changing after marrying me. You will still be you, the one and only Victoria Harper, the person I love most in this world. Ms. Harper, will you marry me? Victoria Harper suddenly grabbed Ethan's hand, pressing it to her chest so he could feel her racing heartbeat. I do. I will defy human instinct, go against nature itself, to love you forever. The heart beneath his palm beat rapidly, a testament to Victoria Harper's overflowing love. Her eyes were filled with nothing but Ethan. Ethan's eyes reddened slightly. Under Victoria Harper's gaze, he took out the promise ring and carefully placed it on her ring finger. It was a simple ring, unadorned with diamonds, designed in a spiral resembling a DNA double helix. Upon closer inspection, a segment of a DNA sequence was engraved on it. Ethan had designed and crafted the ring himself, symbolizing, "My love for you is in my very genes." Unparalleled, the moment the ring was slipped on, distant bells chimed, white doves took flight, and a gentle breeze lifted Victoria Harper's veil. "Groom, you may now kiss your bride." Ethan, looking at the windswept veil, joked, "It seems the wind is more eager than I am." "No, I'm the eager one." As soon as the words left her lips, Victoria Harper eagerly threw herself at him, wrapping her arms around Ethan's neck and kissing him. Ethan instinctively steadied her waist, his wide eyes crinkling with amusement as he unhesitatingly deepened the kiss. The guests below were moved to tears. Since neither of them had parents or close relatives, many traditional segments were omitted. Suddenly, two swallows flew in, circling overhead with clear, bright chirps. Ethan held Victoria Harper, watching them. Perhaps those two swallows were their family. As for having children, they decided to let nature take its course. Victoria Harper, however, was quite fond of children. After a checkup at the Mayo Clinic confirmed there were no issues, she began to wait expectantly. In Victoria Harper's view, she and Ethan were wealthy, good-looking, intelligent, and so deeply in love, it would be a waste of good genes not to have a child. Their baby would surely be the cutest, smartest baby in the world. It said that all roads lead to Rome, but their child would be born in Rome, so to speak. How fortunate! In December, Victoria Harper started showing signs, and a pregnancy test came back positive. She immediately shared the good news with Ethan. Upon hearing the news, Ethan, without a second thought, took Victoria Harper to the Mayo Clinic for a detailed checkup. She was 3 weeks pregnant. From the moment Victoria Harper became pregnant, Ethan dedicated most of his energy and time to her, caring for her meticulously. Pregnancy and childbirth are incredibly challenging for women. Even with advanced medicine, maternal mortality during difficult births isn't unheard of. To Ethan, pregnant Victoria Harper was a precious treasure. He was so careful, as if she might melt if he held her too close or break if he held her too tight. Victoria Harper, on the other hand, wasn't nervous at all. She went about her days as usual, even continuing her fitness routine. Ethan bought a stack of books to read, titles like The Pregnancy Encyclopedia, What to Eat Week by Week During Pregnancy, and Supporting Your Wife Through Pregnancy. By the time Victoria Harper was 2 months pregnant, Ethan had armed himself with all the necessary knowledge. He not only knew how to care for a pregnant woman, but had also bought a doll to practice changing diapers and feeding. He was already proficient in baby care before the baby even arrived. Ethan even watched videos of childbirth, which led to a nightmare that night. He woke up in a cold sweat, starting to regret letting Victoria Harper get pregnant so soon. Victoria Harper was woken up. "What's wrong?" Ethan took a deep breath and gently held her. "Honey, maybe we shouldn't have the baby. I'm scared." Before he could finish, Victoria Harper gave him a light thump. "What nonsense are you talking about in the middle of the night? A baby isn't something you can just decide not to have. Did you have a nightmare?" Victoria Harper knew Ethan best. She shifted up a bit and hugged him. "Don't worry. I'm having regular checkups, my body is strong, and the baby is healthy. Nothing will happen to me. With a child, there'll be one more person to love you. I want to have this baby, and I want to have it with you." They say pregnant women are usually the sensitive ones needing emotional support, but in their case, it was the mom-to-be comforting the dad-to-be. At 3 months pregnant, Victoria Harper was doing perfectly. She ate well, slept soundly, her skin was rosy and glowing, and she seemed to radiate light. It was Ethan who started experiencing vomiting. He found it hard to eat, and the smell of catfish or prosciutto made him nauseous. He lost a noticeable amount of weight in just a month. A visit to the Mayo Clinic showed he was perfectly healthy, with no underlying issues. Just as the director was puzzling over what could be wrong, he suddenly had a thought and asked, "Is your wife pregnant by any chance?" "Yes, she is." "Is there a connection?" "Indeed there is. It's Kuvad syndrome. The more in love a couple is, the more likely this reaction. It means you're extremely anxious about your wife. Victoria Harper had no morning sickness. Ethan was the one vomiting. It lasted for 4 months, only gradually subsiding when Victoria Harper was 34 weeks along with a prominent baby bump. But Ethan remained very nervous. Besides preparing Victoria Harper's meals daily, he would do prenatal exercises with her and, whenever he had a moment, talk to her belly, asking the little one inside to be good and not disturb mommy. The baby was very well behaved, exceptionally gentle. Even when stretching in the womb, it did so softly, as if afraid of hurting its mother. At 39 weeks, 9 months and 21 days into the pregnancy, Victoria Harper's due date arrived. On the night of August 30th, her water broke. At 11:14 p.m., their child was born safely, a boy. Ethan's eyes were red. He first kissed Victoria Harper's sweat-dampened forehead, then, with trembling hands, took the baby from a nurse. Although he had practiced countless times at home, holding the tiny infant made him so nervous he stiffened up, unable to move, terrified of hurting him. The nurse beside him chuckled. "Dad, you're too tense. Relax your arms a bit." With the nurse's guidance, Ethan finally managed to hold the baby properly. He brought the child to Victoria Harper. "This is Mommy, and I'm Daddy. Welcome to the world, little one. From now on, you and I will protect Mommy together." After the baby was born, aside from breastfeeding, Ethan took care of him the rest of the time. Ethan had diligently learned a great deal about childcare, so he looked after the baby exceptionally well. The little one rarely cried and would drift off to sleep with just a gentle coaxing. A month later, his skin had become smooth, transforming him into a fair and tender little bundle. His eyes, strikingly similar to Victoria Harper's, were bright and clear, darting around as he curiously observed the world. Babies are naturally drawn to their mothers. Whenever he was held in front of Victoria Harper, he would giggle endlessly, blowing spit bubbles. Ethan named him Henry. For Ethan, the name held a special significance, embodying vitality and deep affection. He often told Victoria, "His arrival was expected, but the unexpected joy he brings me every day is a constant surprise." Ethan wouldn't let Victoria Harper hold Henry for too long, worried about tiring her arms. When Ethan reached for the baby, Henry would grasp his finger tightly. Despite his tiny hands, an infant's grip is surprisingly strong, strong enough that Ethan felt he could almost lift him by it without him letting go. Ethan had hired a dedicated maternity nurse and a nanny. He did whatever he could himself, and the nanny assisted with the rest. During her month of postpartum recovery, Victoria Harper rested well. Her skin looked unchanged, still soft and rosy. The only noticeable difference was a newfound gentleness. She radiated a motherly glow from within. Ethan had never let her feel neglected throughout her pregnancy. In all his considerations, his wife always came first. He worried about her getting tired, about her mood swings, about her feeling down. Women can be susceptible to postpartum depression, as had been the case with Margaret Johnson, for example, which made Ethan especially attentive and cautious. During Victoria Harper's pregnancy, Ethan diligently applied oil to her skin every day. Coupled with Victoria's naturally good constitution, she didn't get a single stretch mark after childbirth. After 2 or 3 months of recovery, her body was back to its pre-pregnancy state. For little Henry's baby shower, Ethan didn't throw a lavish party, just invited a few close friends over for dinner at their home. Olivia Bennett, Grace Parker, Aunt Grace, Samuel Sullivan, the director. They all came. Everyone washed their hands first upon arrival before going to see the baby. Little Henry wasn't shy with strangers at all. He was happy to be held by anyone. If you looked closely, you could see faint dimples near his cheeks when he smiled. Olivia Bennett usually wasn't fond of children, but once she held little Henry, she couldn't bear to put him down. She didn't even get upset when he peed on her while in her arms. Victoria Harper asked Olivia, "How have you been lately? Is your family still pressuring you to go on blind dates?" "Not anymore," Olivia replied. "My parents have backed off. After all, I've got some powerful connections now, haven't I?" Olivia then leaned closer to Victoria Harper and whispered, "Did childbirth hurt?" "It was quite painful," Victoria admitted, "but I'm incredibly happy now." Victoria couldn't help but smile as she watched Ethan in the distance, holding their baby and enjoying the sunlight. A lot had happened recently. For instance, news about Christopher Foster's family situation had been leaked to TMZ. It revealed his parents' authoritarian parenting style and how he had used the bride price, money effectively obtained from his 2 sisters' marriages, to start his game company. After making money, he never thought of giving back to his family or even thanking his sisters. His entitled attitude sparked public outrage online, and now netizens were boycotting his company's games. As for his 2 sisters, With the help of online supporters, they divorced their abusive husbands. The elder sister left to find work, taking her child with her, while the younger sister, who had no children, decided to take the adult college entrance exam to pursue higher education. In a way, they too had found a path to a better future. Olivia Bennet felt a lingering fear. She had almost started dating Christopher Foster back then. Thankfully, Victoria Harper had warned her. Grace Parker's first international film had been released in theaters and was a box office hit. It was recently released domestically, requiring her to travel to various places for promotional events. Ethan had already seen this movie in his previous life. He knew she would win a major international award for it, paving the way for a smooth and successful acting career. When little Henry turned one, he could already say mama and dada. He loved clinging to his mother the most because she would sing to him. Victoria Harper would sing to her baby the same way her own mother used to soothe her. The dark, dark sky hangs low, bright, bright stars in its tow. Fireflies flit and fly. Fireflies flit and fly. I am missing you so. She had slightly altered the lyrics, making the song even warmer. When little Henry was 3, they moved again. For several years, Ethan had been overseeing the renovation of their new home. It wasn't just an ordinary villa, but an estate planted full of Victoria Harper's favorite flowers. The most striking feature was a ring of peonies lining the walls, their fragrance welcoming you the moment you stepped inside. Ethan named this estate Yen Lo Manor, wishing it to be a place of joy and peace for Victoria Harper. Why all the flowers? Because Victoria Harper loved them, and Ethan had a habit of having a fresh flower placed by her bedside every day. Now, with so many flowers in their own garden, he no longer needed to order them. He could simply pick the most beautiful one from their own flower beds. At 3 years old, little Henry was sent to preschool by his parents. He didn't cry or fuss. Instead, he hummed all the way, "Mommy and Daddy go work, I go to preschool." Ethan and Victoria Harper exchanged a glance and then drove off for a leisurely ride. Although they had a nanny at home to look after Henry, there were some things best done away from a child's eyes. Now that Henry was in preschool, they could finally relax and have some time to themselves. Ethan took Victoria Harper to Cascade Mountain Resort in the Westbrook district. They soaked in a hot spring together, the water temperature perfectly comfortable. Sitting in the water, they couldn't help but close their eyes and enjoy the moment. Ethan held Victoria Harper's hand, leaning against a rock. He had intended to take a short nap, but as soon as he closed his eyes, he fell fast asleep and even had a dream. It was less a dream and more a vision of his past life. Not long after his death in that life, William and Daniel Ford had a car accident. William was left completely paralyzed, and Daniel Ford had both legs amputated. Hit by successive blows, Amelia Harper also fell ill. However, they were wealthy back then. The money Ethan had earned over decades was enough for the three of them to live lavishly without doing anything. When she got sick, she stayed at the best Green Valley Rehabilitation Center, receiving VIP treatment and the finest medical care. But they weren't there for long before being kicked out, because the Johnson and Harper alliance went bankrupt and Amelia Harper's assets were seized and auctioned off. William, having been an actor for so many years, shouldn't have been short of money. But over the preceding decade, he had developed a sports betting addiction, losing all his money and even accumulating significant debt. Unable to repay his debts, he resorted to desperate measures. Ethan's car accident had been orchestrated by him and Daniel Ford. The father and son believed that once Ethan was dead, they could seize control of his Johnson family trust. Daniel Ford had known from a very young age that he wasn't Ethan's biological son. Influenced by William's brainwashing during his impressionable childhood, he believed Ethan was strict with him because he didn't love him. Daniel Ford's attitude towards Ethan mirrored Amelia Harper's. Deep down, he never truly cared for Ethan and looked down on his adoptive father. Daniel Ford favored William, feeling that William respected him and considered his feelings. Only with William could he do as he pleased, skip homework, play whatever he wanted. In middle school, he wanted to drop out to become an internet celebrity. In high school, he wanted to be a star. His whims changed daily. The more Ethan tried to discipline him, the more Daniel resented him. This hatred didn't fade with time, but deepened, so much so that even at 30, he still harbored resentment towards Ethan. Others his age would have inherited family assets and made a name for themselves by 30. But Ethan was reluctant to hand over control. Daniel thought, he really isn't my real father. A biological father would have given me all the family fortune by now. It was then that a bold, dangerous idea began to form in his mind. As for William, his affection for Amelia Harper was worth less to him than a good hand at the card table. Ethan was a hands-on father to Daniel, and admittedly strict. After all, As the heir to a powerful family, Daniel would face brutal competition. One misstep could mean a precipitous fall from their social standing. From a young age, Daniel was unfocused, prone to careless errors, and forgetful. He'd make mistakes and show no remorse. While Ethan tried to correct him, William and Amelia would sneak Daniel away whenever Ethan wasn't looking, indulging him in all sorts of reckless fun. Amelia would often say, "Just let him play. Kids need to be kids. My dad always let me do what I liked and never forced me. Look at me, I turned out fine, didn't I? You're too strict. It'll only backfire and make his rebellious phase worse." And because of that upbringing, she was utterly incapable. No matter how Ethan tried to teach him, Daniel would turn on him at the slightest provocation from others. It just goes to show that bad blood can be passed down, like father, like son. Poor Ethan. He went to his grave in his previous life, never knowing the truth. After a lifetime of hard work, Ethan not only received no gratitude, but was also diagnosed with stomach cancer. He actively sought treatment, but on the day of his follow-up appointment, he was in a car accident. The crash left him clinging to life by a thread. As he lay, dying in his hospital bed, an overwhelming bitterness consumed him as he reflected on his life. Perhaps it was a final moment of clarity that allowed him to truly see the person standing by his bedside. Daniel stood before his bed, his eyes filled with a hatred Ethan couldn't comprehend. Why did this child, whom he had painstakingly raised, despise him so? He struggled to lift his hand, wanting to reach out, to question him. Starved for oxygen, he gasped for breath, each movement of his ravaged chest sending waves of agony through his broken body. "Dad," Daniel said, "Mom will have Uncle Hayes to look after her. You can go in peace." Ethan's fingertips brushed against Daniel's wrist as the boy pulled away his oxygen mask. It felt as if he were sinking into the deep sea, immense pressure crushing him. He exhaled a final, ragged breath, his clouded eyes bulging like tarnished bronze bells. And just like that, he died. As Ethan experienced this dream, it was more like he was watching it all from an observer's perspective. He saw the Johnson Group, which he had protected for years, collapse overnight. He saw Amelia cradling his ashes and handing them to someone. William and Daniel had planned to abscond with the money, but their getaway was cut short when they crashed into a truck. Miraculously, they survived, but one was left fully paralyzed, the other a double amputee. They hadn't even been at the Mayo Clinic for 2 months before they were discharged. Amelia moved from their grand mansion to a small apartment and brought William and Daniel home from the Mayo Clinic. One day, she found herself staring blankly at her phone for a long time. She was the only able-bodied person in the house. Once a woman whose delicate hands had never known a day of toil, she now had to learn to cook and care for the invalids. She grew gaunt. Wrinkles and white hairs appeared. Though there were 2 other people in the room, it felt empty to her, like a desolate tomb. Daniel, confined to a wheelchair after losing his legs, would scream and rage, blaming William for their predicament. Whenever he was lucid, he'd try to hit William, who could only cry with a twisted mouth, unable to escape. A sudden crash startled Amelia. She turned to see Daniel had smashed her wedding photo with Ethan, scattering glass across the floor. Amelia gave Daniel a long, hard look, then knelt to pick up the photo with her bare hands. She placed it on the sofa as if it were a precious treasure before fetching a broom to sweep up the shards. Throughout it all, she remained silent, not uttering a single rebuke, her face an icy mask. Yet, her stillness was enough to frighten Daniel. He was a cripple now, helpless and utterly dependent on Amelia. If she abandoned him, he would be left to die. Daniel said cautiously, "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Amelia offered him a smile. "It's all right. I'll go make dinner." Daniel sighed in relief, but a knot of unease remained in his stomach. In the kitchen, Amelia brewed a concoction, into which she mixed a bottle of deadly herbicide. She stirred it and poured it into 3 bowls. They all drank it. Daniel, unsuspecting, drank his share. William, immobile, had it forced down his throat. The poison took effect quickly. Within 20 minutes, a searing pain ripped through Daniel's stomach. Unbearable agony sent him tumbling from his wheelchair to the floor. "Mom," he cried weakly, "my stomach hurts so much. I'm not well. I need to go to the Mayo Clinic." Amelia, her face deathly pale, stood over him. "The person who would have rushed you to the Mayo Clinic the moment you felt unwell is dead. Killed by your own hand. You deceived me. Both of you deceived me. You're William's illegitimate son. You conspired to kill him, and you dragged me into it. I'm no good either." Amelia coughed up blood, stumbled against the wall, and slid to the floor. She began to laugh, blood trickling from her lips with each cackle, as she watched Daniel writhe in pain and listened to William's agonized cries from the other room. With her last ounce of strength, Amelia crawled toward the balcony. Her gaze fell on the wedding photo on the sofa. Clutching it to her chest, her eyes gradually dimmed. In her final moment, she whispered 3 words, "I'm so sorry." Ethan thought the dream would end there, but it continued. 3 days later, their 3 bodies were discovered. Amelia was buried. Daniel and William's remains were scattered in a fetid ditch. The person who handled the arrangements was Victoria Harper. It was she who had orchestrated the downfall of the 2 family businesses after Ethan's death. She who had revealed the truth to Amelia, and she who had received Ethan's ashes from Amelia's hands. So, what became of Victoria Harper in that previous life? After Ethan's death, she dedicated 10 years of her life to philanthropy. She helped children in remote mountain villages get an education, provided streetlights to illuminate their paths, funded the construction of more schools and Mayo clinics, and oversaw the widening of roads. 10 years later, Victoria Harper was 69. Her face was etched with wrinkles, yet beneath the lines of age, one could still glimpse the beauty of her youth. Her health was declining, her hair a sheet of silver. One day, on a whim, she decided to go mountain climbing. Before leaving, she made sure to update her will, stipulating that her estate continue to be used to help those in need. Her charitable deeds were widely reported in the news. Everyone who spoke of her called her a great philanthropist, saying such a person deserved a long and blessed life. Victoria went to the chapel of the Holy Cross. 3,000 steps led from the foot of the mountain to the summit. People came here seeking blessings, and along the path, one could see pilgrims prostrating themselves in prayer. Victoria Harper looked up. The stairs seemed endless, the sunlight blinding. She took 3 steps, then knelt and kowtowed, continuing her ascent from dawn till dusk. Passers-by watched her, some urged her not to be superstitious or harm herself, while others recognized her and secretly took photos and videos. Only those who were truly desperate, with nowhere else to turn, would undertake such an arduous pilgrimage. Was Victoria Harper one of them? 3,000 steps from day into night. It was a difficult climb even for an ordinary person, let alone one kneeling and kowtowing with every few steps. Towards the end, Victoria Harper was crawling, using her hands to pull herself upwards. Her hair was disheveled, her forehead bloodied from the kowtows, her legs trembled, and her back ached so intensely she could hardly straighten. Gritting her teeth, she finally reached the top, still on her knees. She knelt at the entrance, requested 3 incense sticks, and lit them. Then, she bought a wooden prayer tablet from a young acolyte at the gate, wrote her wish on it, and hung it on a tree. A breeze rustled the wooden tablets on the tree, making them clink softly. Victoria Harper's wish read, "If I could do it all over again, if there truly is a next life, I would trade all my merits and the remainder of my days for Ethan to have a wonderful life. May he achieve all he desires, may all his wishes be fulfilled, and may he find abundant joy and peace. If I could do it all over again, let me meet him sooner. In a world of so many people, how lucky I am to have us. The dawns and dusks of this long destiny often make me gaze into the distance, lost in thought. Flashes of the past flicker in the evening breeze. Have they spun away in the dizzying rush, lost to sight? You emerge from the distant light, radiating a sunny brightness." Ethan was awakened by the sound of singing. Victoria's humming accompanied the melodious song. When Ethan opened his eyes, he saw Victoria, his head resting on her soft lap. "Awake, was I asleep for long?" "Only about 40 minutes. You looked so tired, so I got you out of the hot spring pool. You were sleeping so soundly. If you hadn't been talking in your sleep, I was about to call for an ambulance." Only 40 minutes? It felt like 10 years had passed in his dream. In those 10 years, he watched Victoria's busy figure under the lamplight at night, watched her long black hair turn increasingly white, watched her back gradually hunch over, watched her put on her first pair of reading glasses, watched the wrinkles multiply on her face. He even watched her cry looking at his photograph, watched her pick up a paintbrush and start painting his portrait, watched her, in her helpless anguish, confide in his urn, telling him about the good deeds she had recently done. How he longed to hug her, but his body couldn't get close. He could only stomp his feet anxiously from a distance. Ethan asked, "What did I say in my sleep?" "You said, 'Victoria, stop and rest a bit. Don't tire yourself out.'" Victoria couldn't help but laugh thinking of Ethan, eyes closed, anxiously muttering in his sleep. "You're usually busier than I am, doing much more. Well, have I ever been tired? Look at you, all worked up. You're even sweating on your forehead." She reached out and gently wiped the sweat from his forehead, her eyes filled with affection for this man. Ethan recalled the scenes from his dream, a heavy feeling constricting his heart. In his previous life, he and Victoria had missed each other. In his world, she was merely a passerby. After his death, it was she who arranged his funeral, and it was she who prayed for this current life for him. It turned out, someone truly could love you silently for many years, in a time and space you couldn't see, trying time and again to save you from suffering. Ethan, still resting his head on Victoria's lap, turned over and wrapped his arms tightly around her waist. "Victoria, I love you. I know you love me. I know you know, but I still want to say it. I can't say I love you enough." "Then say it. I'm happy to listen. I love you. I love you. I love you. And thank you. You've worked so hard." Victoria closed her eyes, a smile playing on her lips. She reached out and gently stroked Ethan's hair. A soft breeze caressed her cheek. Everything was just perfect. After a while, Ethan said in a muffled voice, "If your 15-year-old self hadn't met me ahead of time, would you still have fallen in love with me?" "Yes," Victoria said without hesitation. There's a kind of magnetism between people. Some individuals, no matter how long you know them, you never grow close. But others, you can become friends with at first sight, and lovers too. So, even if my 15-year-old self hadn't met your 24-year-old self prematurely, I think I would have been drawn to you and fallen in love with you at first sight. For us to meet and fall in love on this vast planet, it's fate, and it's a miracle. So, why dwell on how Victoria fell in love with him in the previous life? All he needed to know was that she loved him deeply. Thankfully, a miracle had allowed him to start over, ensuring he didn't miss Victoria, allowing him to love her properly for a lifetime. It's September. The osmanthus will be blooming soon. Would you like some osmanthus cake? Ethan asked. You know how to make osmanthus cake? My grandma used to make it. She also made osmanthus wine. Speaking of which, I met your Grandma Miller when I was very young. Have I told you? Ethan instantly propped himself up, and they looked at each other. When did you tell me? Then I must have forgotten. It was when I was 5, Victoria said slowly. I met her in Greenwood Memorial Park. If it weren't for her, I'm afraid I would have been abducted. She carried me on her back to the Metropolitan Police Department. Oh, and she gave me 2 sweets. I think they were osmanthus cakes. She told me she had a grandson, a couple of years younger than I was, with an incredibly cute birthmark on the back of his neck. I really wanted to meet her grandson back then. Another Thanksgiving rolled around. Ethan made osmanthus cake for the first time, and the family of 3 went to Greenwood Memorial Park during the holiday. They burned a lot of joss paper money and ingots. Little Henry obediently knelt on the ground, calling out, "Great-grandma," in his childish voice. Victoria also knelt, looking at the old woman's photo on the tombstone. In all the years she'd been with Ethan, they made time to pay their respects every year, and each time, she would kneel devoutly, thanking Grandma Miller for saving her back then, and for raising Ethan into the man who she could meet and fall in love with. Victoria kowtowed 3 times, then slowly stood up. Ethan gently wiped the dust from her forehead, and their son Henry brushed the dirt off her pants. Afterwards, Victoria took the hands of father and son, and they slowly walked away. Fireflies quietly followed them, listening to them hum a song. In a world of so many people, how lucky I am to have in us. 10 years later, William was released from prison. 10 years had changed so much. He looked at the towering skyscrapers around him and felt like a filthy rat crawling out of a gutter. The sunlight stung his eyes. He hugged the street walls, cowering as he walked forward. His leg had been crippled in prison. 4 of his 10 fingers had been severed, leaving his hands mangled. Beyond that, he had endured much inhumane torture. William thought his life could start anew after his release, but the debt collectors from 10 years ago had been waiting. The moment he was out, they seized him, trafficked him abroad, and harvested his kidneys. There was no news of him ever again. As for his adopted son from the previous life, Ethan had seen him once. He had been sponsoring Hope Springs foster home for years. When little Henry was 5 years old, Ethan took him to visit the foster home to see the new facilities. It was on that occasion, in a corner, that he saw a child in a wheelchair, both legs amputated. With just one glance, he recognized him as Daniel for his past life. The director of Hope Springs foster home told him, "That child's name is Dory. He doesn't have a very good temperament." Dory, his mother named him. Where is his mother? Ran off, meaning she abandoned him. In his previous life, Daniel had no mother. Shortly after birth, he was taken to Hope Springs foster home by William, who then found a suitable opportunity for Amelia to adopt him, allowing him to live a wealthy life under Ethan's care. But in this life, William was in prison, and Daniel's mother, Sophia, hadn't died. Initially, Sophia genuinely cared for the child. Later, when debt collectors found out about her connection to William, they harassed her at home and, through legal means, took the $1.5 million William had given her. Her cupcake bakery was also repossessed. Penniless and with no income, Sophia was left with a child she considered superfluous, so she named him Dory. When Daniel was a toddler, Sophia fell head over heels in love. But her boyfriend broke up with her because he disliked the child. Sophia blamed the child for holding her back and vented all her anger on him. In a moment of rage, she broke the child's legs. Due to untimely treatment, he ended up with both legs amputated. Later, Sophia met another man. After confirming their relationship, he took her abroad, leaving the child at Hope Springs foster home. When Daniel was 7 years old, he was mentally unstable. He insisted his name wasn't Dory, but Daniel, a name that meant passing on the torch, and that he was to take over Johnson and Harper alliance, and that his father was Ethan. No one took him seriously. They just thought he was crazy. Daniel met Ethan's gaze. Overcome with emotion, he fell out of his wheelchair, crying out in pain. "Dad, it's me, Daniel. I'm your son. I was wrong. Please take me away from here. I promise I'll listen to you from now on," he said, crawling towards Ethan. Little Henry was frightened and clung tightly to his father's neck. "Daddy, who is he? Why is he calling you Daddy?" Belatedly, Daniel saw the child in Ethan's arms. His eyes widened in disbelief. Confined to Hope Springs foster home, without any means of communication and unable to leave, he had no idea that the Ethan of this lifetime had changed all their trajectories. He didn't understand why Ethan was so cold to him, nor why his legs were amputated, why he was in this foster home. Where was Amelia? Where was William? Where was Ethan? His only hope for survival had been waiting for Ethan to come and get him. Day after day, he sat in his wheelchair, anxiously watching the main road outside. He had finally waited for Ethan, but Ethan was holding another child, a child who also called him Dad. This was clearly his father. Daniel trembled uncontrollably, large tears streaming down his face, but no one paid him any attention. Ethan, his face cold, hugged Henry tighter. "I don't know him either." He turned to the director and said, "Since his mind isn't right, let's just send him to Springfield Mental Health Center. I'll arrange it through Mayo Clinic." The director hastily nodded in agreement, marveling inwardly. "Mr. Johnson is such a good-hearted man." Hearing Ethan's words, Daniel wailed loudly. "I don't want to go to a mental hospital. My mind is fine. I'm Daniel. I came back from the future. My father is Ethan. My mother is Amelia. I'm her only child. The entire Johnson family and Harper Enterprises are mine. Dad, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have disobeyed you. I shouldn't have pulled out your oxygen tube. I was already punished in my last life. Take me away. Let me be a good son to you." As Ethan left Hope Springs foster home carrying Henry, heart-wrenching cries still echoed from behind him. Other children surrounded him, taunting, "You're not a Johnson. Your surname is Sue. Your name is Dory, and you're just a spare, totally unwanted. You're crazy. Better get well soon, Dory." Ethan turned back, a sarcastic smile playing on his lips. "Dory, that's a well-chosen name." It seemed what goes around comes around was true indeed. An eye for an eye, and then some, a brutal kind of payback. This was an ending he liked. Seeing Daniel from his past life again left Ethan's mind in turmoil. It all felt unreal, like being in a dream. Not until he reached his doorstep and saw Victoria watering the flowers with a hose, the splashing water creating two rainbows under the refracting sunlight. In that moment, his restless soul found solace. All chaotic emotions were instantly soothed, and a sense of peace and stability settled in his heart. This was his home, a home he and Victoria had built together. In this home, they had nurtured a child, becoming a family of 3. In this home, any storm would be kept outside. Nothing could destroy it. "I'm home," he said softly, not mentioning anything about Daniel. He just smiled, put down Henry whom he was carrying, then walked towards Victoria and pulled her into his embrace. He hugged her tightly, as if only by doing so could he confirm that all of this was real. Victoria didn't ask any questions, nor did she struggle. She simply allowed Ethan to hold her, gently patting his back. "Welcome home,"